listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft, people who play it. Today is April 22nd, 2024, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you doing on this fine Monday?
Spencer, hello. I'm doing well. It is a very, very busy time in World of Warcraft these days. So We are here on a public alpha for War Within launch last week, and we are, as we record, we're in the waning hours of Dragonflight Season 3. We have season roll tomorrow in North America. Yeah, we got Plunderstorm winding down here. We got like 1 week left of that. We got 10.2.7 on the near horizon. Yeah, it's starting to ramp up pretty severely from where we spent the last few weeks, I would say.
It certainly is. We are definitely into that point. We talked about this a little bit last week about how much different World of Warcraft there is out there to play at the moment. And as you said, we both got into alpha for our actual own accounts this time, as opposed to a designated alpha account, which I explained last week as well. So it means that we are now at the point where we are able to make our own characters, log into them regularly, and check out alpha on a regular basis, which is pretty cool. So I got myself all set up and situated for that. We also have, as you said, Season 4 kicking off with a lot of Awakened raids and other content that we'll get into during this episode, talking about that content update that's dropping tomorrow. We have 10.2.7 on the horizon. That's coming up, and that's going to include some stuff. We had the Pandaria stuff, which I haven't checked out because we don't have access to it at the moment, to see what that Pandaria Blitz is sort of going to feel like. I'm really looking forward to trying that out, so hopefully that's going to be going well. Season Discovery is still up and hopping. This week for the group that I raid around with, we got everything but the last boss, which we're going up against tonight. So hopefully we get it clear tonight, and then we can start trying to trim it down to 1 day a week, which would be really nice. But I am at the point where I wouldn't say I'm raid logging yet, but I'm getting close to that point where I can, which is actually an exciting thing for me, because that's what I really want out of my Season of Discovery, is to be able to sort of just hop on, do a couple of chores here and there through the week, but really just log in for the raid and get the raid in and have fun hanging out with folks. And that's what I'm playing it for. So I'm enjoying that. There are some, more in-depth quest chains. I'm doing the profession quest chain at the moment, which involves the raid as part of that. So getting that out of the way. There is a lot of time that I go out to Ungoro Crater and fish, so I can catch really good mana consumable food that I can actually use regularly. There's things like that are kind of fun and chill to sort of do, that I still get that classic vibe from and enjoy that. So that's still on my list. And then, of course, anything else that people are wanting to finish up, as you said, for Season 3 before we roll into Season 4. I hope you've gotten your stuff in. And those who are grinding Mythic Plus rating, I hope you are doing well and achieving your goal when it comes to either earning portals or getting that 0.01% title that people are striving for, because obviously the hours are counting down at the moment for you to get that stuff done. So hopefully that works for everybody that's out there. I've seen a lot of achievement runs, which I think you did last week for the Amir to Soul raid. So people getting that out of the way. And there's just a lot of World of Warcraft to play at the moment. We have Cataclysm Classic, because I guess is the other thing that's going to be coming out soon. So, man, it's hopping. It's hopping in the World of Warcraft.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this has been one of the busiest weeks I've had in game in quite a while, really. We had our typical raid schedule. I did promise everybody initially that we'd be doing our achievement run last week, and then we ended up doing it a week early, which meant that we ended up doing 2 weeks worth of achievement runs. But nice. Luckily, the achievements in there are really pretty straightforward and mostly pretty fun. So it wasn't a problem or anything, but it was a 2-night process to do one last heroic clear in season, and also then do the achievement runs. We got the last Firaloth starter out to the last guy that was looking for it, so that was good.
Nice.
It is his alt, so it's not like he's been desperate this whole time. It's he mains a mage, which has no interest in Firaloth, so that's fine. But yeah, he got that going, so that's cool. Did some keys, just trying to round stuff out, just have a nice, just one last nice vault. We are going to be using this gear. We'll get Season 3 gear next week, or this coming reset, I should say. By next week, I mean tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna need whatever I can get to step into season 4. I don't have a lot of needs, but if I get something really juicy, then so be it. So, and I really like this dungeon pool, and I think it's been a great season. So just got a couple of them in there.
Don't be surprised though when you log in tomorrow and your keystone's a +2, because that's what's happening.
Everybody's is going to be a +2.
Yeah, just keep that in mind.
There's no like decay based on rank or anything, which I think is a little weird, but it's okay.
Weird. I agree.
It's okay. It's going to be a slow week. It's going to be a bit of a slow ramp up week, I think, but that's okay. Elsewhere around the game, I finished up Plunderstorm. The double renown. Thanks. The double renown rep was just incredible. I kind of feel like that's the way it always should have felt.
Yes, I agree entirely.
You know what I mean? Like just start there, and then you could add a bigger modifier if you want to do an event weekend or whatever. But yeah, Plunderstorm was a decent ride. I think overall, like the totality of it, I think it was an okay mode for me. Like a 6.5 out of 10, maybe 7 out of 10. It wasn't like the thing I loved the most, but I also didn't really hate it that much in the end. Once they made the adjustments, I liked it a lot better, but I'm not going back. Like I'm done playing it. Yeah. And so then I've been trying to just tie up some Dragonflight loose ends and stuff in the live game. I finished up Soridormi rep this week on my warrior. Wow. Like I was just going back and forth between Time Rifts and Big Dig, and just kind of working on these reps I never did. So that's cool. I've been actually now it's like time to get the rest of the alt stable kind of leveled up. So I've been doing that via follower dungeons, which are great. It's a little weird because it's like the game is playing itself for me and I'm just getting XP, but you have to do damage and you have to kick stuff and whatever. I'm leveling my hunter right now with basically only follower dungeons. Get like about a third of a level per dungeon or something, and it's totally at my own pace. If I stop moving, the NPCs stop moving, so I can step away or whatever, and like you have to kill all the stuff in there. The NPCs aren't going to kill it for you, but as long as you're like doing damage, it's a normal dungeon, But it's a nice option because I don't have to do like these same quests I've done over and over again. I don't have to. There's not all that locomotion. I'm just in the dungeon killing stuff until it's done, and then I get my XP, and then I leave and go again. So. Kind of a nice option so far. The tech is nice. I mean, it works. I haven't had any weird issues with it or anything. Just chunking through some. Yeah, I mean, I did get into War Within Public Alpha a little bit. Unfortunately, like yes, they are attached RepBNet accounts, but there's no like account data copy in this build. There won't be probably until beta maybe.
That's what I was praying for, was the ability to basically just copy over not just my character, but like the whole just grab my WTF and just drop it in and have all my macros and everything. Be really nice. Yeah.
I would love to have my, my dragon riding glyphs and all that stuff. And
okay, so there is a script for that. I will look that up and get that for you, because there's a script to open the dragon riding window, and you actually already have the talent points to spend in it, so you can get 6 of the energy to be able to actually dragon ride properly. That exists. That is a thing.
That's good, because it makes like just transport around the zones brutal, which then you're not really getting the most out of your time testing, But I did hop in there a little bit, and it was all the same build that we played in the pre-alpha event build. So I was just redoing some of that. But I got to play it on stream, which was cool. It was the first time I streamed in a long time, and my internet provider didn't shut me down. And so just being able to show that off a bit was pretty fun. The big bummer this week really was that I had my fingers crossed that they were going to do another, round of MOP Remix PTR, and they never ended up doing it. The previous weekend had ended by the time we recorded last week, and I was just hoping that maybe they do at least another round of testing right away. But no dice on that. I was really kind of wanting to play it, and I had time Friday, Saturday to sit around and play it, and it just wasn't there. It looks like it's going to come in a week after 10.2.7 comes out, which is cool. So we probably won't be waiting too long, but 10.2.7 might still be a few weeks out. So that was the bummer. But I ended up playing like a lot more WoW this week than I have been as we sort of start to get ready for Season 4 and beyond. And I mean, I'm sure I'll be playing a lot this week with Awakened raids and new Keystone season and everything, new outdoor stuff to go chase. I gotta go get 39 item level, so it's time to get back into it.
It's definitely going to be a busy week inside World of Warcraft for sure, once we actually get everything up and running for Season 4 stuff. Man, okay. Is there anything else you want to mention before we hop into what's going on this week?
I don't think so. I mean, it was like a world tour of various types of WoW content for me this week. Crazy. But it's a lot.
Yeah. All right, let's hop into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. All right, this week in World of Warcraft, we got the Burning Crusade Time Walking event where the Sign of the Twisting Nether buff is up for Burning Crusade reputation gains from combat are increased by 50%, as well as quest rewards give 50% more reputation as well if you're someone who wants to do some rep farming, although I don't see a lot of people going back to Burning Crusade and doing anything Burning Crusade this next week. They'll be pretty busy with all the Season 4 stuff, but the Time Walking is a great way to level up a character, and it's a great way to get a little bit of gear going for a new character if that's something you're doing. So if you want to hop into Blood Furnace, Botanica, Magister's Terrace, Mana Tomb, Shattered Halls, or Underbog, be sure that you're getting in there and doing it. Man, Underbog holds a special place in my heart because it's where I found my Burning Crusade raid team after not having a raid team through I guess Classic or WoW or Vanilla WoW, whatever you want to call it, ended, and Burning Crusade launched, and I was sort of out of my guild and on my own until a fateful day when I was in Underbog and found 4 people who were a guild group, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to join us?" So there's a lot of nostalgia there for folks who were around during Burning Crusade, and if you weren't, it's a neat dungeon to check out. Who knows? It'll be in the Mythic Plus rotation one day maybe. So was probably worth learning what it is. And so if you want to do some time walking, get in there, drop some 428 gear. Although I don't know if that's going to move up during the next week. It probably will move up above 428. And the vendor's selling 411, which might also move up. So we'll have to see what that looks like on Tuesday.
They should go up somewhere around 39 item levels or something, I would think, because it will be Season 4 rewards. Everything should shift up a bit. I mean, so it's going to be a lot better than what we can get right now, but it's not going to be great compared to the new top end, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But still, I mean, this is a great event to get leveled up in. Time Walking XP is pretty fast. And these dungeons are super fast, simple runs. These are not like complicated dungeons. These are ancient. They came out in 2007 and Magister's Terrace came out in 2008, right? So yeah, they're quick runs. They're pretty simple. I think it's a great opportunity to get in early in the season, and if you have a tune that you want to get leveled up, or maybe you let the tune fall off over the last couple seasons. Maybe you're coming back for Season 4 because you want to start ramping up into War Within and stuff. Like, if you have a character that left off at like 395 in Vault of the Incarnates, then this is a perfect event to get in there and just get started. And then you do enough of this stuff, get some vendor gear. You could probably get into Season 4 LFR and stuff, and then start working your way up through dungeons and organized raids. I mean, a lot of times time walking early in the season is like bad timing because it's not attractive enough compared to the other new stuff to do. But I feel like a lot of people are going to be dipping back in for the first time in a while, and getting the new stuff, getting some new stuff right off the bat could be huge. Also, I'm not exactly sure like what the weekly cash is going to reward. Like, is it just going to be for the Awakened raid for the week, which I assume will be Vault of the Incarnates, or might it be like the entire pool of Awakened gear?
True. Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't, there's just stuff we haven't had a chance to play it yet, so not 100% clear on it. But I mean, even for a geared up character, it's probably going to be worth doing the weekly quest for this just to get that gear cache. It's week 1. It's a free piece of Season 4 gear at normal item level and upgrade track, which is, it's a good place to start. So I'll probably be doing this on maybe a few characters, honestly.
Yeah, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what moves up. So if Time Walking gear moves up, if I'm assuming we already know LFR gear is going to move up, but we were discussing earlier, was there LFR Fated Raids in Shadowlands? And there certainly were. So if that's the case, then we should be able to earn our bullion, which I'll explain a little bit later in the show. But it's a currency that you get from killing fated bosses, or the new bosses, depending on which week it is, that you can spend to buy other upgrade pieces of gear, which you can then use other currencies to boost even higher along a much larger upgrade track. So if that's the case, then yeah, I think LFR is something that a lot of people should be hopping into, at least killing a boss to get their bullion for the week, which could be worthwhile for that. So there's a lot of little things that I want to see how the system actually works. So I almost feel like next week's episode that we do will be we're reassured the stuff that we talked about on this week is in fact correct and happening and should be happening this way. And that'll be a much better experience, I think, for a lot of folks. So
yeah, my expectation is everything should shunt that like 39 item levels forward, including like outdoor gear, which obviously is going to be even lower level than Time Walking rewards. But they don't like to leave this stuff be completely stranded and pointless in a season 4 situation where it's like, hey, everybody come on back, everything is here now,
right.
Go do whatever you want and get powered up. So everything should be a bit more lucrative, even if it's like outdoor stuff that gets kind of irrelevant quickly in Dragonflight. But it should all move up, and so I'm planning on taking advantage of that this week, I think.
Yeah, that'll certainly be something that people can hop into, and I know I'll find a lot of upgrades because I haven't been playing that much this past season. So maybe we'll see what's lying around the corner for me this week in gear if I hop into retail and start diving into that stuff. All right, the Black Temple is another way to gear up your characters if that's something people want to hop into. Maybe you clear the Fated raid really quickly, because I do feel like it's weird that these raids, you can only see the raid once they're on a weekly schedule. So you see one raid one week and then a different raid the next week and a different raid the next week. And then you're back to that first raid again, which means I feel like these need to be fairly simplified raids, because progging on a raid one week and then having to prog on a different raid the next week and prog on a different raid the next week and then trying to remember what you did the first week, that's not fun. Let's just be clear. So I'm hoping these things are tuned well enough that people can get in and clear through the majority, if not the entire raid. And if they choose they want to extend their lockout or something, the next time the raid comes around, they'll be able to actually get back in there and finish off the last couple bosses if that's what they want to do. I don't know what people will choose to do raid team wise, but I'm hoping these things are tuned well enough that way, which means we could see some pretty big upgrades coming out to a lot of people if they're clearing the raid weekly, which would be really nice. So hopefully that happens. And if that's the case, then maybe you have an extra raid day and you're like, hey, you know what we could do? We could go and do Black Temple raid and we'll see what those upgrades are like, because those could be like close to 500 item level items if they go up by 39. So we'll see what happens with those.
Yeah, I think the nice thing about now, a lot of times we would say like time walking raid the week of a new season drop is bad, but you might be in a spot where like normal feels comfortable for your team this week, but heroic feels pretty hard. I mean, it's a big item level jump. So this is an extra raid full of bosses you can go knock over that's going to drop normal equivalent upgradable gear and, just give you some more chances at some item level, which I think is going to be the biggest thing for everybody out of the gate, right? Like, yeah, obviously you want the optimized pieces, you want your stats to line up nice, you want that cool weapon or trinket or whatever. Like, yes, but that's your season-long goal. Your week 1 goal is just stack as much item level as you can get so you can start working your way through. And, there's what? I assume we're doing Vault. That's on the schedule for this week. And Vault is what, 9 bosses or something like that? So that's not like a whole lot of bosses if that's all you get to kill for the first week of Awakened. So, you can mix Black Temple in there, and it might be a good option for a lot of teams. For us, I was just going to step into Heroic at first, but we got a bunch of people coming back who've been gone for a while, and I'm starting to think it makes more sense, at least for the first week, to start with normal and just clear straight through and just get the low-hanging fruit and then work our way up. Because before too long, we'll be all the way through the rotation cycle, most likely, and then it'll be like, okay, what are we going to do this week? So I would rather do that than potentially run into like an early roadblock where we only have a few bosses dead before the game starts feeling not so good. So it's always a little tricky at the outset of these seasons, even when it's not new content. Like we know these fights, or some of us know these fights from the end of 22, but it's going to be like a whole different ladder at this point.
Yeah, and I don't want it to be a situation where folks are just frustrated with season 4 right off the bat because they have to reprog everything, but now they can only prog stuff every 3 weeks, and it's irritating. And you don't want that. So I'm hoping that they did in fact tune stuff around a 1 week clear, and that's where they want stuff to be. And this just to be a fun time to be a World of Warcraft player and get in there and just get stuff done, right? And get the loot and essentially almost have that season of discovery feeling of like, yeah, you can play around with different things and have some fun, but you don't need to worry about progression, because that's not really what we're focused on this season. I think that would be really nice. So we'll see what they choose to do, but yeah, keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing I'm looking for, we're branching a bit beyond, the time walking discussion here, but
sure. Yeah.
I mean, season four in Shadowlands, I think they opened way too high, and it felt really bad that first week. And I'm hoping that Dragonflight doesn't feel like that. I mean, we're not going to have the raid affixes and stuff like we had in the Fated raids for the Awakened raids, which should help a bit because it's not another new layer to navigate. But right. Ultimately, who knows how it's going to feel until we step in there and start doing it. I would love it if bosses just fall over, because it's the end. This is this is it. Like, we have some new story content coming that's going to set up War Within, which seems really cool. But this should be just like, hey, let's have fun with Dragonflight content. Here it all is. Let's kind of celebrate it, power up, go do what you want to do, and enjoy it. That's what I really wanted for Shadowlands Season 4, and it got there, but it took like a good 6 weeks or so, and I would like to see that accelerated here.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. We got the world boss obviously still up, is Oristar the Hibernator. That's going to be the world boss for Season 4 as well. So, and actually it might rotate. We might see rotating world bosses as far as who's empowered based off of which Fated raid is happening. So we'll have to get that confirmation as well as to how that's working right now. But for now, just keep in mind...
I tried to find out on PTR, but believe it or not, there's not a lot of people doing like the Zarla Caverns world boss in the PTR queue right now. So I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, we'll figure that one out this week, and we'll be able to confirm next week. But yeah, the assumption is that Oristar is still going to be the bear you want to kill this week, but there's the potential that the OG world bosses are suddenly back in action and something you want to be paying attention to, because you might actually get some good loot off of that. And that's going to be Liskanoth the Future Bane, which is the Ice Proto-Dragon in Thaldraszus. So make sure you try killing Liskanoth and seeing what kind of loot you get, because that might be some really nice rewards as well. So definitely check that out. All right, Mythic Plus affixes for the week are Tyrannical, Storming, and Raging, meaning bosses have more health and deal increased damage, while in combat, enemies periodically summon damaging whirlwinds, and non-boss enemies enrage at 30% health remaining, temporarily granting them immunity to crowd control. Now, keep in mind, the dungeon pool is changing. It is going to be all Dragonflight dungeons that you're going to be sort of participating in. So it's going to be very difficult to, I guess, figure out what kind of tips I could give this week until we start to see some of this, because all of the tuning for all of those dungeons has also changed dramatically, because they not only had to tune a lot of them up for obviously Season 4 with such a big leap in item level from the last time there were Mythic Plus dungeons, but they've also like gotten to the point where they've removed some trash mobs, they've moved some stuff around, they've done a bunch of tuning to abilities. Some abilities are different. It's going to be a different feeling experience than what it was, back in Season 1 when people were first checking this stuff out. So I would encourage people to get in there and just keep in mind, obviously bosses are going to live longer, which is probably a good thing, because it means you'll get to see their full amount of abilities. And since everyone's going back to a +2 Mythic Keystone, it means that, everyone's starting at an easier spot, which means as you see these, as you're pushing your Keystone, you will get a better impression of these bosses and what these bosses' abilities are. So I think this is a decent way to start it out with a Tyrannical. Storming, obviously, just avoid the whirlwinds if you can. If you're a tank, you can soak them. They will knock you up so that you're sort of losing your control of your character for a moment. So keep that in mind with some abilities and some bosses you'll have to deal with. Raging, focus down the raging targets. Try to be sure you're dispelling the raging off of them or soothing the raging off of them. And be sure that you're not leaving a caster who then can't be stunned or something in a situation where they're going to get a big cast off that's really important. So overall, not a terrible week to sort of kick the whole thing off with. I like seeing a Tyrannical week the first week, because I think it'll make the trash feel a lot smoother, and it will allow people to actually see the bosses for what the bosses are in this, difficulty level that we moved into. Yeah,
it's possible that this isn't the combo this week also. I just would like to throw a disclaimer out there, but from Season 2 to Season 3, they kept the rotation the same, and there aren't like any massive affix changes coming in this season. So my guess is that it's going to be on the same rotation, which would lead us to this combo. And Tyrannical, man, I don't know. I kind of go the other way. I don't really love Tyrannical early in the season because the bosses take super long. They take like as long as they're ever going to take all season, but either way, like, we have to learn the particulars of this pool with this tuning, with our current, class design, with the affix combos. Luckily, we already have some built-in knowledge from Seasons 1 and 2 of, the dungeon layouts and kind of some of the more dangerous parts, or, some of the boss mechanics or what have you. So it helps a lot. Like, we're not going in totally blind where it's like, okay, we've never done this before. How does this work? Oh, what happens on Keystone difficulty? Oh, no. All right, well, how do we deal with that? And then kind of having that period of a couple weeks of adjusting to it. We're very late in the expansion, as we keep talking about, and a lot of this, there's not as much of the sort of prestige rewards for a lot of players in season 4 Keystone Pool as in previous seasons. If you played all the stuff in Dragonflight, there's no teleports to unlock, for example. So like for somebody like me, who I played a ton of Keystones in season 3, like more than ever have, I'm content to just dial it way back in season 4 and just like, okay, I want to fill up my vault. I'll get Keystone Hero or whatever, just as a matter of course. But I don't need anything really specific out of this particular experience, right? I just want to check the dungeons out, have fun, get some gear. I think it's a great spot to be in for season 4. It's because it should be a bit more chill and a bit more like, oh, I feel really OP in this content. So we'll see. One nice thing about the way this rotation fell is none of this stuff really requires any kind of intense counterplay or any kind of comp requirements or concerns, right? Everybody can deal with storming and everybody can deal with raging. So, granted, you can soothe raging and just make it totally go away if you have particular comps, but if you are judicious with your stuns and CCs and stuff, with your target switching, plus it's not even fortified, so the thing that enrages at 30% health and then can't be stunned, okay, like it's not doing bonus damage, and it doesn't have a modifier on its damage, so it's inherently less dangerous than it would be on a 4-week anyway. It's kind of a nice combo. You can bring whoever wants to play and go check it out and just have a plan. I mean, like you mentioned, if you have a caster or something, make sure that you're ready to kill that first, just direct damage into it when it starts getting low. Something like that. Maybe like if it's at like 35% health, bust a stun on it. The stun will break once its health gets low enough, but that might buy you a little bit of extra time or interrupt one last cast or whatever just to finish it off before a volley goes off or what have you. So you have those options regardless of what your comp is like. That's a nice feature this week. If it was like Afflicted or something, I'd feel a little bit worse about heading into a season with that,
Definitely. I do agree with that. I still enjoy having the bosses be something that you have access to early on for a more extended period of time. I just wanted to mention, because it's going to be inside the show notes, I tracked down that script about dragon riding. So if someone is getting access to alpha and they want to actually spend their talent points on dragon riding, I have found the thing that you need to type into your chat. So you just put this into your /say and it'll work for you. So I am making sure that I'm sharing that around, but it'll be in the show notes for those who are actually looking for it so that you can actually find it and, get all that going. All right. With that said, let's move into the, I guess it's Volunteer Guard Day. That's what's coming up. The 28th of April is going to be the day where you can go and visit a city guard and talk with them. And essentially, you can choose to volunteer to be a city guard and defeat the invaders that are coming after you or after the city. And you can support your local guards. So if that's something you want to do, it is a good way to get yourself some extra currency for the adventure, not the adventure journal, the trading post.
The trading post. Yeah, for the trading post.
That's what I was thinking.
Traveler's Log. Traveler's Log, I think, is the name of the thing you're actually skilling up.
Yes.
And yeah, there's always a little. Plus, we're getting down to the wire for April. Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's always little stuff hooked into various in-game holidays and micro holidays.
Yeah. So be sure you're getting your Volunteer Guard Day Traveler's Log stuff done for the trading post. There you go. I've used all the terms. All right. We also
it's pretty fun. I mean, there's nothing to it. You kind of just stand in Stormwind or Oregon, and you just like kill NPCs. But then your buff it ranks up as you kill more attackers until you get the temporary defender of whatever city you're in name. That's cool. It's like a fun little time waster, I guess, if you're waiting for people to log on. You're gonna wake up on Monday going, oh, I can't believe I forgot to do Volunteer Guard Day, but it's there if you want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you wake up on Monday and you forgot to do Volunteer Guard Day and now you didn't have enough currency, so you have to do something else to be able to max out your Traveler's Log for the week. That would suck. Although we also have Children's Week. Now, this is an important note. Children's Week runs from April 29th until May 6th, which means it overlaps from one month to the next as far as Traveler's Log stuff goes. So if you're someone who's already capped for the month, you might want to wait until we roll into May before you start doing the Children's Week stuff so that you can be sure you're getting rewards. Now, ideally, they're designing the rewards so that they're not the same between each month. So if you've already done it on one month, you then don't get to do it on the next month. But if you're someone who likes to sort of min-max your time and use your time well, you can probably just wait if you're already capped for the month and just do Children's Week inside May, and that'll help you get capped for May. And, that's the nice thing about it. There's also the Northrend Cup. Now, Jason, these are coming back, I guess. We're continuing on the cups that are going on. This will be taking place from April 30th until May 13th. Is this something you think you're going to dive into and fly around in?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I ended up having a lot more fun with the Eastern Kingdoms Kalimdor and Outland Cups than I really thought that I would. And, I think there's some cool opportunity for some of these locations in Northrend for the racetracks. There are 12 new races coming in. And there's new rewards. There's like a new color scheme for the MOG. There's a new title. I think there's a new tabard. So I'll be doing these. Oh yeah, there's a checkered pennant you can get to. I wonder if that's like a tour, like one of those banners that sticks out of your back. That could be cool. So I'm looking forward to it. This was kind of like a throwaway thing for me initially in Dragonflight, and really, like I didn't do all the Dragon Isles races achievements and all that. There's just way too much of it, and some of them are like way harder than I want to try to get good at. But doing the old world content races ended up being way more fun than I thought it would be. And so yeah, I'm up for another round for sure. I mean, I got to think eventually these are just going to be a rotation or something, or like something you can always go back and do. But yeah, it's cool. I'm probably what I'll do is like hop in there and try to bang them all out in one day. That's what I've normally done with these so far. So we'll see. But I got to fill up those UI elements, got to get those sets and get all that stuff just squared away in my collection, even if I'm never going to use it. But I think the old school content dragon riding cups are just fun on their own merits. Like I just enjoy doing them. So cool to see that coming in.
Yeah, I'm certainly excited for it. I like getting in and doing these things as well. And lots of really unique and cool rewards. And I'm curious what some of them are going to be because I haven't actually looked at any of the data mining if there has been for this Northrend Cup. So I'll see what all the rewards are, which is going to be pretty cool to check out as well. All right, we're going to shift gears for a moment. All right, we're going to go into Season of Discovery for Hotfixes, get the Season of Discovery stuff out of the way, and then we can get back into live game and what's coming up in Season 4 stuff. So here's Season Discovery part. I'm just making that really clear at this portion. Okay, there are now Emerald Warden Guard NPCs present near Nightmare Incursion quest givers and the Quartermasters. So this is important because people would train a whole bunch of mobs over to the Quartermasters and the quest givers, and people would get into combat and it would be really irritating. So they've now thrown guards there, which helps people out by just clearing out that rabble that sort of comes over with a couple of players. All right, the drop rate of Nightmare Seeds in Sunken Temple has been increased by 50%. So people who were desperately dying for them, these things were selling for over 20 gold a piece because they were rare enough and people were in there farming trash regularly to try and get more of these Nightmare Seeds. Obviously the market will fluctuate and adjust based off of the fact that they've now dropped much easier. They also made it so the Sigil of Living Dreams no longer requires a Nightmare Seed, so there'll be fewer people who need Nightmare Seeds, which should help that problem as well. They also made it so players will now gain the honorless target effect whenever they enter or leave a Nightmare Incursion portal, because, oh my god, is it ever a nightmare, quite literally, is what's going on. I actually saw a few people on Twitter sort of mention it. Countdown to Classic, friend of ours, was also mentioning it when it came to essentially just being this like mass PvP ridiculousness where a faction just sits on one side of the portal and kills anyone who enters or leaves. And you're like, okay, well, that's horrible to picture. So they did ease that up, make it a bit easier for folks. They also did a lot of class tuning. This is the week where we saw the mana return from Seal of Martyrdom significantly increased, which, oh my goodness, does it ever make a big difference? They increased it by 150%. And if this is what having a shaman in your raid felt like for Horde side, it is wonderful. I have substantially less mana issues in our raids now, and so I fully understand why Alliance was getting the short end of the stick on the mana stuff by Paladins not having this buff until now, but that is a really nice change. I will also mention for some folks out there that they did move around some of the slots that some of the runes were on. So Skullbash got moved from hands to legs, Lacerate got moved from leg to hands. They also moved around Paladin, the Light's Grace rune moved from Bracer. Their move to Bracer was Helm. So they did shift some of those around. So if you're someone who's like, hey, wait a minute, I'm missing a rune. Why does this ability not work? It's probably because they moved it and it's no longer on your piece and you have to reapply it. And it might mean changing out some other runes for you. So just keep that in mind. But yes, there was class tuning, so be sure to check the hotfix notes that I have inside the show notes, and you'll be able to check out to see what changed for your class. The one other one I'll highlight here is Victory Rush Heal. It was increased to 30% from 10% for warriors. That is very nice. That is a big sustainability and leveling life quality of life improvement. So good.
That makes you go, hey, maybe I should level up my SOD tier a little bit. You know, I don't know. I'm not quite ready yet. I don't think. You know, I think I want to just wait until we're in the level 60 phase, and then maybe I'll hop in there and just get to level cap, because it just changes too fast for me. But this is great. Yeah, I mean, like having Victory Rush so early on in SOD was cool.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like in a position to really save your life too frequently. I mean, this is much better. It's closer to kind of how it works in modern, you know.
Yeah.
So nice. Just yeah. I mean, the worst part about Vanilla Warrior always for leveling up outdoors solo and stuff was just you're getting chunked down in combat constantly.
Stop and eat.
And then you have no rage, which then you got to build it. It's just this helps with the pacing so much. Just keep you fighting and doing what you want to do.
Yeah, well, I will say for those who are like, ooh, I don't know whether or not I want to try Season Discovery or not, that I am at the point where I'm raid logging, which is nice because that wasn't something I got to last phase. There you go. I never really got to the point where I felt like I could just sort of raid log and just be comfortable and not really worry about it anymore. I just sort of lost interest. And so it is nice to sort of get back to that point. Also, Nightmare Incursions are just wonderful. If you're someone who's like, hey, I feel like doing something chill for a little bit, you can just go and do 2 or 3 or 4 runs of Nightmare Incursions, pick up where you left off, because the quests don't expire once you've actually accepted the quest. So you just sort of be sure that when you're leaving off at the end of the day, you have a bunch of quests sitting in your log for it, and pick it up the next day and keep going with it. They're great. They're a good amount of experience. They're fairly chill. They're an easy loop. You can start them at, all the way down to level 1 by just going to Dark Shore and starting doing the Dark Shore ones, and then sort of work your way up through all the different areas. So if you're someone who's like, hey, I'm thinking about coming back, I'm level 25, what do I do? Well, you'd go to Dark Shore and you'd level up to 40, and then you go to Ashenvale, and then you level up to 50, and then you're good. And that's what you do.
That's the kind of thing I wish Phase 1 had, honestly. Like, just some kind of outdoor content to go do when I felt like playing, but there really wasn't anything, like, on the calendar or what have you. Like, that is a very appealing thing about the current phase.
Yeah, just parking your character there is just an easy thing to do, right? So you just hop in and do a little loop, and then you're good, and that might take you 15 minutes to do a loop, and then you're, essentially like, all right, I've done my thing for today, and I feel like I've accomplished something, and I've made some progress, and one loop is like a level and a bit, or close to it, so... Sometimes it's half a level once you get later on into the larger experience bars, but nice to just sort of do those loops and get that all done. So certainly worth doing. All right, we're shifting out of Season of Discovery. We're now going into Season 4, the content update, the official notes for Season 4 that has all the little details that you might want about this. So they start off by saying, powerful rewards await in Season 4 to deliver the best of what the Dragonflight expansion offers. Jump into new Mythic Plus dungeon rotation, rally your forces with new challenges and raids, prepare for the new PvP season, and ready yourself for the war within. Awaken raids. Every week during Season 4, one of the 3 Dragonflight raids will become awakened. Vaulting Incarnates, Aberrus, and Shadow Crucible, or Amirdrasil, the Dream's Hope. Enemies within awakened raids are stronger and drop upgraded loot with a higher item level. A buff that increases reputation gain with Dragonflight reputations will be enabled whenever a specific raid is awakened. So the schedule, obviously we're starting off with Vaulting Incarnates, then we're doing Aberrus the Shadow Crucible, then we're doing Amirdrasil Dream's Hope, and they've tied reputations to that. So Vaulting Incarnates has Dragonscale Expedition, Maruk Centaur, and Iskar Tuskar. The Aberrus raid has Loam Niffin, Soradormi, which, sorry Jason, you just finished that and you would have had a much easier time.
That's okay. I was already almost done, so I was like, let's just do it. I wanted to do it. The point is I wanted to do it, but yeah, you'll be able to get bonuses when 10.1 era content is awakened.
Exactly. Sibelian and Rathian is also part of the Aberrus Crucible raid. Emirdasil Dream's Hope has Wardens and Valdrakken Accord. They sort of threw Valdrakken in there, I guess, because they needed to give something else to Emirdasil. And basically all these raids are going to have a reputation. So when these raids are awakened, they're going to have their reputation increase up there. I imagine the reputation increase will stack with other reputation increases. So Darkmoon Fair, we're going to see that happen we just had the World Quest bonus event week. That will be a really big one as well. So I think this is a great way to sort of help people at the end of the season achieve their goals if that's what they're trying to do, or new players who have not played Dragonflight yet, who want to hop in and get their characters prepped up for War Within, can get in and do that and actually see the whole storyline, which is the biggest thing for me. That was my gripe, is a lot of story content is capped behind reputation and having to get reputation maxed out, which means if you actually want to see the full storyline of the game that exists, something like this helps to sort of help you push through all those renown barriers to be able to see that storyline before you move into War Within, which is really important to some players who may have sort of lost interest in Dragonflight but want to come back for War Within. So good to see that happening as well.
Yeah, just one quick note on the schedule. When this came out on, I think was it Thursday last week, the notes came out, and they said it was going to be a bi-weekly rotation. And if you remember a few weeks back, we talked about it on the show, there was a thing about, with every bi-weekly rotation, this, that, and the other thing was going to happen. And we were like, what version of bi-weekly does that mean? They quickly amended this to say that it was going to be a weekly rotation, so we aren't going to have 2 weeks of Vault, and then into Aberrus, and then 2 weeks of that, and then Emirdasil, and then 2 rotations of that into all raids being awakened.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a week of Vault, and then we're going to go into a week of Aberrus and a week of Emirdasil, and then I don't know what's going to happen, because they updated the notes, but they pulled all the dates out. So, does it mean we're going to have to wait 6 weeks, so 3 entire rotations until they're all awakened, or was it a 6-week plan for that to happen, or is it a 2 rotation plan? So, I don't really know, but we'll find out. It's sort of. It's kind of a moot point, because we're just going to play whatever's up, right? Whatever's awakened is what we're going to be playing. It is going to be kind of an interesting decision for teams to make once you have all of these raids available as awakened all at the same time. Where do you even go? Just go straight through and then back around, when you just leave off wherever you left off or something? I don't know, but yeah, we saw obviously a similar kind of concept at the end of Shadowlands, but there's so much more stuff in Dragonflight. So there's stuff that you may have missed when it was new, or you just never finished it up before the next newest thing came out or whatever. So this would be a chance to do that, and it should be really cool if all the rep bonuses all across the entire expansion apply once all the raids are awakened.
Which it should.
That was the stated plan. The thing is, we just don't have the schedule right now because they took the dates off. But whenever that happens, man, I think it's going to feel really great if you have stuff you want to put a bow on before Dragonflight is totally over, or if you missed a big chunk of the expansion and need to catch up on something and you just want to bang it out for the story questing, the one-time stuff, the whatever the rewards are at the end of the track, you'll be able to do whatever you want to do really at that point and get a pretty accelerated track on it.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly looking forward to that point, and I do feel it's necessary, because I do think you're going to have a lot of people towards the end of Dragonflight come in who want to prep for War Within. So having the ability to essentially catch up on story and catch up on things to sort of feel like you're prepped for War Within is going to be really important. So I'm glad that we're seeing the plan for that start to take shape, which is good to see. All right, all 3 raids will also drop a new tier token to exchange for new tier pieces with the appearance and set bonus combination that players voted for. Earn 1 antique bronze bullion. I just love how they have to make it fancy. You can't just get a bronze bullion. It has to be an antique bronze bullion. Every week.
Well, I guess you want to tie it into the bronze dragons or something, I guess. I don't know.
Anyways.
You gotta make it more valuable.
You do. It's antique, so it's definitely worth more than just a normal standard bronze bullion. A week per you can earn 1 per week per character by defeating awakened bosses, with a cap rising by 1 each week. Note that if you miss a week, you'll be able to catch up to the current weekly max. Now, I mentioned LFR earlier because I was like, hey, I assume LFR bosses count towards this, which means that players who do not have a raid team or who aren't able to commit to a raid schedule could still earn this currency. That's an important currency. And it's probably going to be earned through a quest. I bet you're going to get a quest to kill 5 bosses or 4 bosses or whatever it is. And once you do, you turn in the quest and get a bullion, because that's what it worked like when we were doing stuff in Shadowlands. So I figure it's going to be fairly similar. You exchange 2 of these bullion for weapons or powerful items from Dragonflight raids from the vendor in the Parting Glass in Valdrakken. So apparently this vendor wants all of the bullion for themselves and is willing to give you raid gear for that. An additional vendor sells Jigglesworth Senior, the mount, for 3 bullion, and cosmetics that grant you your choice of any raid weapon appearance at any color for 1 bullion each. So if you just want weapon appearances, apparently you can just buy the weapon appearances, which is also actually very cool because you may have never gotten the drop that you wanted, or it may be something where, you know what, you're coming back, but you weren't really sure what everything looked like, and you aren't really willing to commit into a raid to try and get transmog right now. You can just buy the transmog if you just do some LFR every week. That'd be great. It would certainly be cool to see that happen. Legendary items will now drop as usual from raids, but players who have previously obtained them can purchase a Scale of Awakening to upgrade their items to the Season 4 eye levels, which is base 502, and then it can be upgraded further using crests and flight stones. So if you're someone who has the legendary item, which, you know, like your raid member's alt just got this past week, you're actually able to sort of, I guess, move that to the new upgrade track and then upgrade that up, which is pretty cool. So hopefully folks are taking advantage of that. And as far as rewards go, completing all 3 Dragonflight raids on normal difficulty, you receive the Voyaging Wilderling Dynamic Flying Mount. This is an interesting flying mount. It's like what's the best way to describe this thing? It's like a dragon mixed with Pandaria dragon. So it's that like swooping, shaping dragon, but also has like 4 other creatures mixed into it. So it is definitely a wildling.
It's one of those wolf looking, wolf serpent, like Falcor looking things from Shadowlands from Night Fae, but with some different color scheme and VFX and stuff on it. But it's a nice reward. Having a dynamic one of that is pretty cool. Yeah.
You also earn the new title Awakened Hero for completing the Awakened raids on heroic difficulty. And you get those who complete the Awakened raids on Mythic difficulty are rewarded portals to each of the 3 raids. So if you clear it on Mythic, you get to teleport to the raids, which is cool. I mean, I think these are reasonable rewards. I mean, a title's nice. I don't know how many people are going to use the Awakened Hero title. It just doesn't snap for me like some of the other ones that are out there, but it is nice to get a mount for completing all 3 on normal or above. And then, I mean, Mythic-wise, getting portals are always useful. I do feel like portals are becoming something that you just have a bazillion of over the years with Mythic Plus, but, you know, they're typically on a cooldown, and the Mythic Plus ones, at least, you can use and then clear the actual Mythic Plus and then reset the actual cooldown on that, which is neat. So I think portals are decent for Mythic. I think Mythic, it would have been nice to see something more than just portals, but portals it is. So that's what we're getting.
Yeah, the fast travel quality of life is pretty cool, and also they don't really need too many assets for it. So
yeah,
you know, there you go. I mean, overall, I think we'll see. You know, I'll get back to me next week after I've had some time in the raids, but I love some of the changes that we're seeing here up front compared to Shadowlands Season 4. There's no affixes or anything like that. You know, in Dragonflight or in Shadowlands, there was a bunch of like Kiss Curse type things you could activate at the beginning of the raid, and as they stacked up, you know, it started with 1 and then it went up to, I think you could have 4 active at once. By the time you had 4 active at once, it was super fun because the bosses were just exploding. But with 1, it was just another hurdle to navigate on top of a bunch of really complicated fights. So, you know, initially out of the gate, Shadowlands Season 4 didn't feel too great in raids.
It felt like Prague. It felt like you're going back to the beginning on these bosses again, which was really unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have those wrinkles with this, which is great. And also, now, Antique Bronze Bullion is sort of the successor to the Dinar system, which was at the beginning of Shadowlands Season 4, you got a quest to defeat 30 faded raid bosses, and that would reward you with 1 dinar. Then you would get another quest to do 20, and then 1 more to do 10, and then you'd every 3 dinar, and you could pick 3 raid weapons or trinkets or whatever of your choice, and you were done. This is not that. And Antique Bronze Bullions, you're going to be able to get your first one the first week out of the gate. It was impossible to get 30 raid bosses killed in faded raids in week 1 because there was only like 9 boss raids. And so you'll be able to, the goal here is that, like, if you're keeping up with the schedule, you get one a week. And if you get behind schedule, you can get more than one a week. And, you have to spend 2 to get the weapons and the trinkets and stuff from the vendors. But, every other week you're getting a new piece for the duration of Season 4. There's no cap. You just keep earning these, and you can spend them as you will. So you can put together all kinds of cool combos of raid trinkets and stuff. And if you miss Jigglesworth Senior from Shadowlands Faded, you could save up and buy that mount, the Slime Cat mount. It is a pretty cool, unique looking mount, and it was a limited time thing. So that's also a nice inclusion here. And I think the biggest thing for me, I love the fact that there's no cap on how many you can acquire, because it encourages you to keep playing, and you can get exactly that piece that you want. You don't have to worry about waiting for a drop. Also, all the stuff that you buy is at like a very low rank on a very wide upgrade track, right? So that if you're playing at the LFR level or you're playing at the Mythic Raid level, you're getting your same antique bullion, you're buying the same item. The LFR player, that might be around their power cap, because that's a level of content they're doing, that's a level of crest they have access to, what have you. But still, they're getting a very good item. They get, a good trinket or whatever, and it's at LFR level essentially, but you have it. The Mythic player, assuming you have some kind of maybe not suboptimal trinket equipped at a higher item level from either Season 3 even, or from Season 4 Awakened raids, you'll be able to quickly use flight stones and stuff to get that up to a relevant item level, and then invest aspect crests in it to get it, to the highest end of that track. I think it's a really smart system, because you don't have to navigate all these different versions of items on a vendor or whatever, and make sure you buy the right one, or, oh, should I buy this now and get the power spike? I think we're going to start doing Mythic later, but we're not doing it right now. So should I save it or should I buy it? You don't have to really worry about that. You could just grab the item that's going to be the big upgrade for you, and then upgrade it as you work your way through the content. So that's a really nice kind of twist on the dinar system that we saw. I think it sounds like Bullion is just going to be way better, way more player friendly. Just a much better reason to log in and clear that raid out for another week, because I really got my eye on that trinket. Or, once I get these 2 items, and wouldn't it be cool to have this too? Or like, I want to use this for dungeons. Like, that would be fun to have it. I think we all kind of had those moments that we're playing in Shadowlands Season 4. Oh, I wish I could just have like one more dinar, and then I could get this thing, and it would be so cool, and you don't have to worry about that this season. It's just going to be play the game, do the content you want to do, use the rewards to buy the exact items you want, and then upgrade them as far as you can take them based on the content you're doing. I think it's a great way to approach gearing. I think that really rewards the player's time investment a lot more.
I love this method of gearing. I would be. This reminds me of a system I actually enjoyed back in the day, if they had refined it a little more towards being able to target pieces of gear, which was the follower system back in Warlords of Draenor, where you could send out squads of followers to bring back raid gear. I really enjoyed having those 1 week cooldown or 4-day or 5-day cooldown gear reward quests. I just wish you could have targeted something, because if you could have said, all right, we still have a follower system or something like that in place, and I sent out my squad to go into the raid, and they went into the raid and they brought back that trinket that I really want, that would be really cool. And I like systems where you can have that on some sort of cooldown or some sort of delay. In this case, it's the bullion system, where you're like, all right, it's going to take me a couple of weeks to be able to get enough bullion to be able to buy the thing I want, but then I can buy the exact weapon or trinket or whatever it is that I've been really desperately wanting, and that I know will turn my class around and give me the biggest benefit for feeling good about what I'm doing in this season. And I love that. I wish that was implemented earlier and not inside the Season 4 let's mess around phase. I wish that there were systems like this in very early on, where it's like, hey, for Mythic Plus, you can essentially get that trinket that you want on a guarantee if you haven't gotten in the first 3 weeks or whatever it is, right? Like that to me would be huge, because the amount of times that I spent farming the stupid cube was ridiculous. And I would really, really enjoy them going, hey, here's this trinket, you can have it. You've done 3 weeks of farming. Here you go. And I love systems like that. So I want them earlier. Give them to me earlier. Don't wait till Season 4.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking like between this and the way that they're handling gearing in Mists of Pandaria, like these would be interesting experiments to see just kind of come into mainline, like, new content release. WoW. I feel like we are maybe, these are little windows into a future where that's just how the game sort of works. you know. But we'll see. Those philosophies change, and player reaction to them changes as well. So I don't know, but they're doing a lot more interesting stuff with gearing in these kind of sandboxes that they feel like they could play in without breaking the game, in a season 4 or an MOP remix or even a season of Discovery or something. It's like, well, this isn't like quote unquote real WoW, that'll be the War Within season 1, but for this is just fun. So go get your gear and see how you do.
Yeah. All right, PvP. Season 4 arrives with PvP ranking reset, new gear sets, mounts, titles, and more. You earn the Vicious Dream Talon for Horde and Alliance version, for the Rated Arena and Rated Battleground, and the Draconic Gladiators Drake, as well as the Draconic Gladiators title for earning Draconic Gladiator in Dragonflight Season 4, as well as the Draconic Legend title can be earned by people who hit that top 0.1% of the solo shuffle ladder. So if you're chasing any of that, I think Draconic Legend is actually a pretty cool title. So I would be down for seeing who's actually pushing for that. I know that the ratings for solo shuffle go up super high. I was watching a Pika video that came out a little while back that was actually quite well done about where the state of solo shuffle's at and how successful WoW PvP is, except that the queue times are just bad in every single level and there's not enough people doing it, which is part of the problem. So there's just this weird situation that's created with people having to sit in queue for hours and hours, but the actual content being a lot of fun. So there's a push to try and get more people involved in that, and hopefully things like Draconic Legend title actually get people back into it. All right, dungeons. We return to all 8 Dragonflight dungeons for a refined and rewarding progressive curve from Heroic, Mythic to Mythic Plus, with better pacing and meaningful rewards. Obviously, we're back to Ruby Life Sanctums, Brackenhide Hollow, Nokkud Offensive, Uldaman Legacy of Tyr, Naltharis, the Azure Vault, Halls of Infusion, and Algothar Academy. The rewards for dungeons basically have now been shifted a bit, but things you can earn in Season 4 are dedicated defenders can obtain the new Keystone mount, the Infinite Armoredon, or Armoredon. I always forget the E in there, the Armoredon. Once the Dragonflight Keystone Master Season 4 achievement is attained, you also earn the Draconic, is just the title, the Draconic, after obtaining Dragonflight Keystone Conqueror in Season 4, and when you reach the Mythic Plus rating of 1500 during Dragonflight Season 4. Draconic Hero can be earned for people who get the achievement Dragonflight Hero or Dragon Hero for Dragonflight Season 4 when reaching Mythic Plus rating in the top 0.1%. So you get the Draconic if you just sort of do your Keystone Hero, your Keystone Conqueror, and if you get your Draconic Hero Dragonflight Season 4, 0.1% top players in your region, you get the Hero thrown on the end of that title. I don't know. It still doesn't speak to me title-wise. Draconic Hero is cool. Draconic is cool. I want fancier titles. I don't know why, but my brain's just, I don't know what it is, man.
Well, it is Dragonflight. It's a Dragon Isles expansion, so it's going to lean into that heavily. I think you could call the title for the top 0.1% anything at all, and people would go for it and use it to start off. But
I feel like Scale Guard, or like there's so many cool things you could do that are dragon themed that they haven't embraced, but I guess it is all about the draconic stuff inside Dragonflight, so that sort of is there. All right, anyways, the continuing with dungeon changes, Dragonflight Season 4 brings a variety of changes, including new adjustments to the dungeons, their progression, and rewards. One of the most notable changes players can look forward to is the removal of the timer for Mythic Keystone dungeons for obviously what are currently 0 to 10. So 0 to 10, no timers. Players can run through these dungeons at their own pace without the need to watch the clock while still honing their skills. Heroic difficulty and rewards will move up to roughly the current level of Mythic 0 difficulty. These dungeons will remain available to queue via the group finder, though the item level requirement for the queue will also go up accordingly. Mythic Zero's difficulty difficulty and rewards will move up currently to the level of roughly Mythic 8 to 10. They're still sort of deciding where that's going to sit, but numerically it's close to 10, but not having a timer at all, or Affixes really offsets that by quite a bit. The existing Mythic Plus system will pick up where that leaves off, such that a Mythic Plus 5 in Season 4 is roughly equivalent to a plus 15 today. So keep that in mind.
So one thing I just want to touch on here really quick, because I hate the way that they worded this.
Yeah.
Because what it sounds like is that you will do Mythic Keystone 2 through 10 without a timer. Because it sort of says that almost, but it's not. Their Mythic 0 is now equivalent in tuning to Mythic 10, but there's no timer. It's not a Keystone dungeon, though. If you have a Keystone, you have a timer. No matter what the number on the Keystone says, there's a timer. So just keep that in mind. Like, I feel like some of the messaging on this has been really confusing, like needlessly so. And I've seen people have talked to me about it. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it in various Discords I hang out in. Like, people are a little confused and thinking that they'll be able to do Mythic Keystones without a timer. That is not how this works. It's just that Mythic 0, a dungeon with a Mythic tag, will be much more challenging than Season 3 Mythic 0, but also much more rewarding. And it'll be sort of more like that mega dungeon type experience and feel, even if you're just doing like a 4-boss dungeon. So keep that in mind. They're basically just chopping the bottom half off of the Keystone system, and the Keystones now are going to essentially start at 11, basically, right? Like, if you think about it that way, it's going to say 2 on it, but it's going to be like a Mythic 11 was in Season 3. So I feel like it's less complicated than they've sort of made it seem. They've tried to put all this information out about it, and I think they've just muddied the waters instead of just sort of putting it out there in a more direct way.
Right.
I think they're good changes. I think we've had a lot of dead weight and dead space in that Keystone progression for a little bit here, a couple years now. And I think, I think there's space where players want to do a more challenging dungeon, but they don't want the Keystone trappings. They don't want the timer. They don't want the enemy forces bar. They don't want all that pressure that, around the small group experience that a dungeon can represent. I think there's plenty of room to have challenging dungeons that a team can approach at their own pace and have Mythic Keystones be their own thing that audience also enjoys. So we'll see how it works out. I'm curious to see what people think about it once they get in there and start playing it. I mean, on its surface, I think it's a good change. I think reducing some bloat out of the Keystone system is good, and presenting really what this does is it presents a different option, a new alternative for people to play and a new way to approach dungeons. Mythic 0, as we know it, as of today, on the eve of Season 4, has been useless. It's just not serving the audience that it would be good for, and I think this will improve that a lot.
Yeah. All right, at the beginning of Season 4, I mentioned this earlier in the show, all Keystones are going to be reset to level 2, regardless of level. This is due to, obviously, all the refactoring between Mythic and Mythic 0 and Mythic Plus and all that kind of stuff, so they're just setting everyone back to 2. So that's what your Keystone will be. Whelpling crests are no longer available for Mythic Plus dungeons, as those difficulties no longer exist. Players can continue to collect Whelpling crests from many outdoor sources. Players will earn Drake's quests, you'll get 10 of them, for successful completion of a Mythic 0 timer. Obviously, there's no timer to beat, so just successful completion, you just complete it. Worm's crests are available for Mythic Plus 2 to 5 dungeons in the same quantities as they were from existing ones. Aspects crests are now available in Mythic Plus difficulties 6 and up, with the same quantities as they were previously. So that's where you're going to get your crests from. Crests that I hear they're keeping the same concept for going to War Within, so we'll probably see a lot of carryover as far as numbers go. If you're starting to get these numbers in your head as to how many you earn, it'll probably be something fairly similar going in there.
Yeah, I think this is probably the blueprint for War Within Season 1, right? Like, that would make sense. And man, I'll tell you what, something pretty juicy here is what you just said, which is Aspect Crest available in Mythic Plus 6 and up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the number one thing you need to farm, probably, is going to be that. I mean,
well, especially if you're spending your bullion, then you're going to need them. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, like, if you just need to bang out vault quests or whatever, or you just need to farm crests to hit the weekly cap, then, I mean, now granted, you could be doing plus 9s to get myth track rewards and everything. But then if you have your 8 plus 9s in for the week, but you need something else, or you're just not quite at that level yet, right? You're still working your way up the system.
Yeah. Doing
plus 6s, and plus 6s only have 2 affixes, right? Plus 9s do as well. It should just be a lot more streamlined. There should just be less friction to getting the currency I feel like, well, again, get back to me in next week or maybe in a couple weeks. I feel like a +6 in season 4 should be relatively easier than a +16 in season 3, and I don't think +16s in season 3 were that bad. Taking a whole affix out of the combo should make it significantly easier, I would think. So unless they really whiffed on the tuning, you should have a pretty clear upgrade path here, right? If you're participating in these systems, I think it seems like it's lining up pretty nicely to me. I haven't, obviously we haven't played it yet in the live environment, so they might have completely whiffed on all this tuning, and I'm just getting beat in the head by Knowles and Brackenhide Hollow, and I'm not getting anywhere. And so maybe I'm singing a different tune in 2 or 3 weeks. But looking at it, like on the outside looking in, waiting for this to go live tomorrow, like these look like good changes to me, and this looks like a much more player friendly way for me to get to where I want to go with my character.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, Northrend Cup, a little bit more details here. On April 30th through May 14th, obviously that's taking place. There are going to be 12 races to participate in across Northrend, which it's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to the Storm Peaks freaking races. I really am.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many cool exteriors out there, Sholazar. I mean, Sholazar could have some really cool races, too. So, everybody loves Northrend, right? So,
yeah, so they're going to have normal, advanced, reverse variations of these. You get yourself your Azeroth badges. You go to Mastha inside of Valdrakken to purchase your rewards with those badges. You get the Northrend Racer title that exists out there for getting them on gold, getting the achievement for getting them on gold. And then, of course, you can also get a Ruby Riders of Azeroth tabard. And you can head to Valdrakken to speak to Lord Andastraz near the Rostro Transformation to pick up the initial quest for doing all of this. The new rewards are the Icy Drake Racers Transmog set and the Checkered Pendant, which I haven't looked at the pictures of these yet, but I imagine they're going to be pretty rad. So be sure you're taking advantage of the Northrend racing while it's around for a couple of weeks. Coming up, end of April.
Yeah, I'll be in there. I know there's going to be there'll probably be 2 or 3 bad ones. That's usually the way these go. It's like everything is pretty friendly, but then there's 3 just inexplicably tight timers, and then you got to
brambles you had to go through in the Burning Crusade one, man.
Yeah, there's always just one. Yeah, there's always just a couple where it's that takes 40% of your whole time of doing all the different races, right? But no, I'm looking forward to it. The only problem is there's just so much stuff to do. Yeah. I'm gonna really try to get this done the first couple days it's out, because we just have too much other stuff coming up right behind it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, classes in Season 4. They're going to be reducing the overall throughput of some healers to better align with the tuning goals, as well as increasing the comparative power of Holy Paladin, Preservation Evoker, and Holy Priest without needing to further escalate the capabilities of healers. We do see buffs like 5% overall healing increase to Restoration Druids. We see all healing done by Mistweaver increased by 13%. And we see Discipline Priests getting a bit of a BAP. Basically, as part of their balancing for healers in raids, they want to reduce the healing raid output from Discipline Priests without affecting them in other content. So Atonement transfers 35% of damage and healing down from 40%. And Atonement healing is increased by 70% up from 50%. So we'll just see a little switch there for them to sort of get them a little bit more in line, as well as Restoration Shamans getting a 5% healing increase. So their healers across the board get the biggest changes when it came to class changes. They actually didn't list any other major class changes, so it looks like it was just a focus on healers. But be sure that you're checking things out as they progress in the next week, because there might be a lot of tuning that happens on Thursday this week. We'll have to find out what that first hotfix kind of looks like that they get into with stuff like this.
Yeah, and we also know that 10.2.7 is very near on the horizon, and there'll probably be more tuning changes and stuff coming in with that. So I think this is just something that they wanted to get out in front of, but obviously tuning is also a never-ending battle, and once people are in there playing the game and they're seeing data with how they're dealing with Season 4 content, things will change. But this is something to be aware of when you first sign in at reset this week, for sure.
Yeah. All right, looking for raid. In combat, resurrection spells in looking for raid now use the same shared charge system as other raid difficulties. Groups in looking for raid now start with 6 in combat resurrection charges and gain a charge every 90 to 150 seconds, depending on the group size. So there's more reses available immediately, which means that first pull where everyone just loses their mind and isn't able to focus on what's going on, you can res a whole bunch of people and actually help people get back up. as opposed to using yours and then essentially you're just out of it for a while. So just keep that in mind. They've switched up how rezzing works in LFR. Dawn of the Infinite hard mode, they are actually tuning this hard mode and its rewards to be updated with Season 4. So Dawn of the Infinite may still be quite relevant because it does not have a timer and rewards hero track items. Hard mode is intended to be more challenging than the standard Mythic difficulty dungeon. So this is above your Mythic Zeros, but won't be Mythic Plus, but will reward heroic track gear, which is pretty sweet. So I'm excited that they've actually kept Dawn of the Infinite relevant with this sort of thing for people to get back in there and still do the, big mega raid the way it was designed, or mega dungeon the way it was designed to be done.
Yeah, I think Dawn of the Infinite was probably the best one of these they've done too. And there's some cool loot in there. There's some stuff that even on the hero track might be worth having since it's the only way it's available in the pool. So we'll see. I sort of, in some ways, I kind of hope not, because if you're somebody who's doing, raid and keystones and whatever and gearing up that way, then you got to try to drag people into Dawn of the Infinite with you to try to get that mirror or whatever.
Well, but what if they threw more transmog in for your dragons and stuff?
Yeah, you better hope that really moves the needle for the people that you are trying to get to do it with you. I mean, it is a cool dungeon. It's a cool experience. It's neat to see it kind of have this life cycle of, it comes in new as a mega dungeon, then it gets split up and into keystones, and then it rotates back out and finishes up the expansion in the mega dungeon form again. Like, I think that's really cool. And yeah, there's some pretty unique gear in there that might prove useful. So it's a way to keep it relevant without, it occupies sort of a similar space to when it came out, Yeah. It doesn't have like the best stuff that you could possibly get in the season, but it has some unique stuff that might be worth having.
Yeah. All right. As far as the other dungeons go and tuning for the other dungeons, they literally went in, they removed abilities, they removed trash, they decreased damage on things, they changed up the timings on when things occur. Like, they just worked this. There's like 5 pages of notes of just what they did to dungeons. Is there anything in particular you want to highlight about this? Because otherwise I would just encourage players to get in there, experience it at Mythic Plus 2, and you'll see, what the changes are and feel out what the new rotation and feel is going to be for a lot of these dungeons. Well,
I mean, I think the biggest thing really is that they sort of, they really targeted nerfs at the worst stuff that we saw in the earlier seasons, like the weapons, the cast magic spells at you in Algathar Academy. They were pretty brutal. They tuned that down quite a bit. They retuned a bunch of the bosses. Azure Vault, they upped the timer by 2 minutes, which is great. Azure Vault was always a pretty tight timer before. They added stuff like precast visuals to like cone attacks and things like that, so that helps a lot. They changed some stuff with, like the Draconid Breakers in Azure Vault had this shoulder slam that would do a knockback, and you're on these kind of elevated platforms and stuff, so that you don't have to worry about that anymore. A lot of changes to Brackenhide Hollow, including like the Withering debuff doesn't stack anymore, and it doesn't do as much damage or haste and movement speed reduction. They took a lot of the poison effects and stuff just straight up off of mobs that had them. Stink Breath also got some updated visuals. That's the one named mob that like had that targeted cone that was damn near impossible to see where he was going to cast it. You just had no time to react to it. So that's been changed. Hacklaw's Warband caught a pretty decently big nerf, and that was by far the hardest boss in this whole place. It was like the first boss is the showstopper. Can you kill the first boss? Okay, you could do the key. If you can't, then you have to go do something else. Some pretty big, some really nice changes to Halls of Infusion, including a dungeon checkpoint. So now when you defeat the frog boss, now there's a checkpoint. So that could save a key timer just all on its own, honestly. And some other nice changes with like the containment apparatus, the containment beam thing. That was brutal as you started getting up the fortified ranks, and that's been nerfed severely. So that'll be nice. One nice change in Neltharis is on Warlord Sarga, the last boss, where you had to get the treasure and use the treasures to break the shield. The Azure Stone of Might has been removed. That was the one that was like the grapple effect where you would use it and then it would pull you into the boss. And it was really dangerous if you weren't expecting that to happen. So that's just off the table. I mean, that boss cost me some timers in Season 2 for sure. Noku Defensive got some really nice changes to the trash, especially. Multi-shot has been removed, and Rain of Arrows will now be cast less frequently by the longbows. That's a great change. So just, knocking that trash down quite a bit. Some relatively minor changes to Ruby Life Pools, which I'm surprised by because I felt like that dungeon was pretty hard in the season that it was in before. So, we'll see how that feels. And Oldemon actually had its timer reduced, which is weird, but the dungeon is huge, so it should probably come out okay. A lot of changes to Lost Dwarves, which is funny because it never felt like a hard boss to me, but it was obnoxious as hell to fight. And they changed like the burning pitch radius and significantly, and the frequency of it and stuff. So that should help quite a bit, because you do that on like a decently high tyrannical, and the whole entire room would just be fire patches pretty quick. So nice changes there. I mean, I don't suspect this will be the only round of dungeon retuning we see, but it seems pretty obvious that they targeted these changes at some of the most obnoxious stuff that we've seen in these dungeons in previous seasons. And I think like they want people to get in there and do the dungeons and have fun with the content and work their way up the system. So, it's cool to see this many changes right at the beginning. But, if the data's not showing what they want, then I'm sure they'll continue to retune these. I have no reason not to think that they will. And, the odds that they hit this perfectly the first week out of the gate are also pretty low. So, but like some of the most annoying stuff, thinking about these dungeons coming back and going, oh, do you believe we're going to have to deal with whatever again? It's like a lot of that stuff is in this list that got tuned way down. So I like to see that.
Yeah, it's great to see. And the other thing that's changing up, which I guess this is a good thing that's coming out on Monday, is this is your last chance to use up your revival catalyst charges before they reset, because they're going to reset all the charges down to 1, and 1 charge is earned each week. It used to be once every 2 weeks you'd earn a charge, whereas this season it'll be once every week that you earn 1. So use up the ones you got. If you got a bunch banked up, just get the transmog that you want to get or whatever it is, and then you're going to hit the obviously that getting reset to 1 next week, and you'll be able to kick it off the season by choosing a piece of gear to throw into the new updated tier set, I guess is what you're able to do, which is pretty rad to just start out with getting a tier piece right off the bat.
Yeah, and weekly charges is super nice.
Yeah.
And I think it's the correct thing to do for season 4. I even sort of get why. I mean, like, listen, the game is the kind of game that it is, and it has the business model that it has, and they want you to keep coming back, and they want you to keep subscribing. So they don't just give you everything all at once. But I think for a season 4 type area that we're moving into, having a weekly catalyst charge just feels correct out of the gate. You get a piece, you turn it into your set. You get another piece, you turn it into your set, and then, you're done. In 4 weeks, you have your 4 set, no matter how bad your luck is, probably. I mean, I guess it could be bad enough that you just don't actually have those pieces, but you should really prioritize getting them from somewhere, of whatever you can get. But yeah, it's understandable, right? Like, they have to bring the charges back. You can't just have, okay, I have 8 charges, whatever. It's not fair to people who are checking back in or whatever and don't have gear or whatever. This puts everybody back at the same spot, right? Maybe you had charges banked up. Maybe you banked them, but you used them on transmog because you figured it would get reset. You know what I mean? Like, they have to just, it's the same thing with setting all the keystones back to 2. We're just establishing a baseline for season 4, and then we'll go from there. But I think the cool thing is you don't really have to be that judicious with your catalyst charges this season. Like, if you get a nice upgrade on a piece that you already have, you don't have to go, oh, well, I need to save this for 3 weeks, and then I'll use my next catalyst charge on it after that. Like, you can just use it because you'll have another one at reset.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad to see the change come in for catalyst stuff. I think that makes absolute sense. Like you said, you can't have some people starting off the season with a ton of tokens and just getting their tier set right away, and other people essentially being punished for spending their actual tokens on something that, was like transmog or whatever it is. That just would not be enjoyable for folks. So definitely a good change as far as that goes. Let's wrap up today's episode with, we're not wrapping up yet. It's a whole chunk here to talk about. The What Are Warbands blog post that came out this past week for War Within. So we're shifting to War Within mode. And man, this is a hefty blog post. They really want to be sure people understand what the system is. So let's, I'll just kick off with the blog here, which is the new Warband system is being introduced in War Within and will encompass all of the characters on a player's profile, Battle.net account, as well as items, collections, and the progression they share. It is important to note that your Warband is limited to characters within a single region, i.e. US or Americas, Europe, Korea, Taiwan, but spans every realm, faction, and even subscription you may have within that region. Many aspects of World of Warcraft have been shared across your account for a long time, essentially a warband. This includes your collection of pets, mounts, transmog, heirlooms, and more. With the release of Warbands, we are significantly expanding what additional aspects of the game have Warband integration. Just to name a few of the changes coming in, new reputation and renown tracks will be Warband wide. A new Warband bank will allow you to easily store and share items between characters, and the ability to collect most item appearances with any character in your Warband, regardless of their ability to equip the gear. Yay! There's all of those are great, wonderful things. Thank you for that. So, the goals of the Warband system. Before getting into detail of each change that players will experience with Warbands, we want to share the main goals we are aiming to accomplish with the system's introduction. Make playing alternate characters easier and more enjoyable. Data shows that many players already have an alt or 2 or 10 or 50 and enjoy playing them, so we want to make playing them even better. You want to switch between characters without falling behind. There will always be a lot of character-specific progression in World of Warcraft, such as high-end gearing, but wherever it's appropriate, moving progression onto your Warband should allow you to freely play multiple characters without losing efficiency or long-term progress. Acknowledge the player behind the screen. In other words, wherever possible, we want to celebrate your accomplishments within your Warband, not only on your character, so you can carry those accomplishments with you to whatever character you play. That's actually a really cool one, because there's a lot of stuff I have on some of my, like, especially titles, like mythic titles, I have attached to particular characters, but not to other ones. It'd be neat to be able to carry those along. Clarify which aspects of the game are account-wide versus character-specific. It hasn't always been clear which parts of the game apply to your characters versus your account. We've taken this opportunity to clarify these differences in the UI, as well as replacing the term account with Warband throughout the game. Let's get into more details about Warbands and what they entail. Before we do, Jason, what do you feel about the top end of this blog post?
I mean, I think this is basically what players have wanted for a really long time. It affects me personally not quite that much, because I really am. I mean, yeah, I have a wide stable of alts, but I barely play them or do anything of significance on them. I have a true main, and I kind of always have. So, it doesn't open up all these new avenues of gameplay for me, honestly. But I think that this is a great change, and it really is modernizing the game in a significant way. This is something that I feel like most players really sort of take the approach of having, even if it's just like a 2 or 3 character rotation of like what they play, and they like to switch back and forth between them. So, not having those hurdles between them is really good. And it's a much more modern take on I think presenting a game like this, having everything be, well, not everything, but having as much stuff as you can be player based instead of based around a character in the database. It's not the kind of thing that I can't wait until it comes in, because it's going to mean that I can do this thing that I like to do, but it's going to be so much less painful to do it. I do have a ton of characters, and it might, who knows, between that and stuff like Delves coming in, it might result in me wanting to play my alts more than I do and do more stuff with them, because there are fewer barriers between my characters and everything like that. So I get the impression that this has been under development for a really long time, and that it's finally the time to bring it in. It's been years, I think, that they've been working on this system. So I'm sure it's fraught with a lot of pitfalls of getting it all to work. But it's cool that they're standing it up, and I know this kind of stuff has just been on so many players' wish lists at the very top for just forever, man. I mean, going back to the early days, before we even had like account-wide stuff, really, before like Cataclysm, I would say people wanted stuff like this.
Yeah, I remember when the heirloom system first came in, and you're able to get gear on your main, you could then mail to your alt and help them level up, and how important and amazing that revelation was for players. Essentially having more account-wide and more, I guess, Warband-wide, if you will, now is the term they're going to start using. Items you can access, progression you can access, rewards and accolades that you can show off. That's something that I think is a really nice sort of encompassing benefit to your account, just in general, to your experience, your player experience. All right, so let's talk about Warband conversions. One of the major undertakings of Warband is to convert aspects of the game which are currently character-specific to become Warband or account-wide. This conversion process is being developed to run automatically upon your first login of War Within pre-expansion when the pre-expansion patch goes live. This means players won't need to log into each character for the conversion. There may be some wait time for the system to process your warband upon first login. However, please be patient while this occurs, as it involves processing a lot of data. Yeah, if you're someone who has 50 characters, or keep in mind, I'm spread across a whole bunch of servers. When you first log in, my assumption is it probably goes server by server down the realm list of any server you have a character on, and then goes into the character's information for each of those characters and scans all that information and compiles all of it and then builds your warband. So if millions of players are doing this, which I imagine a lot will, it could create quite the server slowdown, which might make this process take a bit to actually build your warband the first time you log in once pre-patch goes live. It would almost be interesting to see if there was any way to actually have this process take place before the content releases. Like if they do the pre-patch, but none of the pre-patch stuff releases until 3 days after, or whatever it is, pre-patch goes live, just to give everyone time to log in and have this all get built so that when the content goes live and that big rush and push of excitement happens, you aren't dealing with sitting at a warband screen for 10 or 15 minutes as it tries to build your warband and something might go wrong or something might happen, whatever it is. Because this sounds like the risk that, to me, it doesn't sound like they are expressing there's a risk, but to me, it feels like there's a risk of something going wrong when you're compiling this much data together and trying to build it into a frame like this. So I hope these all go smooth as far as this stuff goes.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very ambitious, and I'm sure it's going to take a lot of work on their end to stand it all up, and I'm sure there's going to be hiccups when it goes up too. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't take too long to get you into the game. I think people would be, I mean, myself as a player, right? I guess I can only speak for myself, but I would rather get into 11.0 pre-patch and start running around doing the pre-expansion event stuff and just like, okay, my warband stuff is gonna like fill it in, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
I'd rather log in and just like not have the stuff there and at first versus waiting for it all to sync up and then log in. But
yeah, it
might be a little weird that first day. It'd be really cool if we could somehow do it just from like a BNet login or a login server login without having to get into the game. But
or you get into the game and you get that stuff processing in the background icon at the top of your screen, so you're actually able to run around and do stuff while it does this. But yeah,
that'd be great. I mean, like if we just have to sit on the login screen, we have to. It'll be like a one-time band-aid. Think of that, and then that's every time that you were going to switch between a character on your account to like mail something to yourself or whatever like that. This is the last time you have to do that ever, and then there's no more logging between characters to shuffle stuff around in the mail.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good deal. I'll take that deal if I got to sit at the login screen for a little while.
I'll definitely take that deal. I'm with you. I just feel like if there was a way to sort of smooth that process more, that would be awesome if they could manage to do it. Because I think people would be really pumped to just get in and get into pre-patch and get into the content and get ready and all the event. I know there's going to be a server event and there's going to be we know all that stuff's going to happen, right? So people are going to be excited to get in. And if the first thing you have to deal with is logging in and sitting at that character screen, I would be curious if there's people out there who have like placeholder characters. They're like, I'm going to delete all of these characters that I don't care about at all so that my login is faster because there's less data to compile to build my warband. It's just a strange thing to think about. Anyways, let's talk about reputation. The warband-wide reputation. Once War Within launches, most new and many Dragonflight reputations will become warband reputations. When you have a warband reputation, any progress you make on one character will be shared with all of your characters. Rewards will also be unlocked for all characters, although this form, the form this takes will vary per reward. Warband-wide rewards will be granted only once, while some rewards will remain character-specific and need to be collected on each character. So obviously, yes, if in your renown you unlock a new helm, you're not going to get just one helm, and sorry, that one character gets one helm and no other characters get helms. You'll have to log into your other characters and collect their helm on each of those characters, is what they're referring to. What I hope this looks like for people when this merge happens is if you are someone who is halfway through a renown level on one character and halfway through a renown level on another character, when this merger happens, you gain a renown level. It just merges those two together and you get bumped up, and everything just sort of gets bumped up all the way along as all these characters merge. That would be how I hope this works. I hope it does not just go, here is your furthest progressed. Now everyone is that far progressed. But I have no idea. We'll have to see how this actually sort of like happens when they actually do the mergers and what takes place.
Well, no, it is going to be what you're saying. It's not some accumulation of like, this is all the rep you've earned and we're going to put it in one big pool and now congratulations. And the reason for that is because a lot of times you have this front-loaded reputation for a quest line or whatever. But, I think it's okay. It makes sense to do that. The cool thing, I guess, is that now that we have this, like going forward, that's something they design around, right?
Yeah. So
when you do a quest the first time that rewards rep, you earn your Warband rep, and then if subsequent characters do it, you get different rewards for it. So, that's one nice feature of finally ripping off this Band-Aid, so to speak, and moving into this sort of more character agnostic world is you can have this different reward structure around it. So it is a little awkward for existing stuff, but also, for a lot of players, I think the only thing that matters with reputation is what is in front of me. Like what am I supposed to be doing right now? Like there are, I'm sure, a lot of players who aren't like rep completionists who want every bar filled up and want every rep reward available. There are people who love that stuff, and that's cool. It's definitely like a gameplay niche that is out there if you want to do that. But I think your average person who logs in just kind of engages with the rep system as much as they have to get what they want out of it to play the content they're interested in. So, I think it's fine. I think it's a fine way to handle it, but it's going to be a little weird because we're going to have this obviously for War Within stuff moving into it, and then retro for Dragonflight stuff mostly, and then they're going to add stuff over time, but the older stuff will not be part of this system with 11.0 launch.
The reason why I question the merger is they say once a reputation is converted to Warband wide, reputation progress will display as the furthest that any character on your account has achieved. If you were Renown 5 for Valdrakken Accord on one character and Renown 10 on another, your new Warband Valdrakken Accord will be 10. So it's not going to go to 15. They're not adding them together. And so that's why I'm like, oh, I hope this merger doesn't actually function that way, because otherwise, essentially, if you spent a bunch of time farming Renown on one character and a bunch of time farming Renown on another character, you're not getting that benefit boost of unlocking a whole bunch of stuff once this goes live. All your alts are just going to be set to where your main for that reputation was, which is a little bit disappointing.
I mean, if you were building your renown across multiple characters and keeping it very horizontal, then you're pretty uniquely impacted by this. Yeah. But hopefully you didn't do that, because it's a really bad idea. Because usually once you get to the top of the renown track, then you get like bonuses for alts or whatever.
Sure.
So you really want to build that vertically. You will have no choice in War Within, because anything that grants rep will grant your Warband rep, and it will not be something that subsequent characters can then earn for that one-time event or whatever. So the Warband is going to be one vertical column and that's it. Whereas, right now we have as many characters as you want to make, all have their own sort of progress through the system, which is also kind of, just from that standpoint, it's kind of worth cleaning up. I think Renown was maybe one of the pieces that fell into place that made it possible to make a move like this.
I agree. It definitely, as a system, it definitely helped all this sort of take place. They opted for the furthest progressed earned because for many reputations, progress is not earned evenly. You can earn a lot of front-loaded reputation from doing campaigns and other one-shot quests. The thought behind this was that if we added all the reputations earned across all characters together, this would create an unfair advantage for players who play many alts to those who spend their time on just one character. Yeah, I get that argument. It's Dragonflight reputations. I really don't think it matters. There's not a big... This is pre-patch that this is happening in. Like, okay, sure. They're going with it. Like, I'm just going to accept it. That's just where I'm at. The reason why they didn't want to boost it is because they feel like the best way to earn reputation for a faction for Dragonflight to max out Renown in pre-patch for War Within would have been to make a whole bunch of alts and do the first 5 quests and then just not log into those alts again. I struggle with that mentality personally, but sure. Okay. Let's go for it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think you want to have that be like a viable method or something that people are trying to, like some weird edge case people are trying to exploit. It's like anti-gameplay and it's anti-immersion. Like you want people to just play the game and get cool rewards and play how they want to play. So yeah, I think overall this change, it removes those kind of edge cases like we saw at the beginning of Dragonflight Season 3. And there's no real motivator to do that, right? Like you are not going to get some kind of benefit where, I unlock this minor rep bonus for all my characters and I'm going to take advantage of it to play my main second once I have it unlocked and then have a more streamlined path. You're just always earning progress towards your goals with a system like this. And I'm sure that there will be cases where players try to find little edges they can exploit to try to get something a little bit faster. But, overall, you shouldn't be put in a position where you feel like, or that everyone is telling you around the community that the correct way to do this is actually really strange and potentially more time consuming. But if you don't do it, then you're not taking advantage of this minor upgrade that you could take advantage of or minor benefit that you could take advantage of. Most of us don't have the kind of time to play that the people who are saying we should do this are playing either, right? So I think a lot of this just is a huge quality of life and makes it also impossible to do it wrong, kind of, right? In the broadest selection of cases, like log in, play the game, do your quests, do your events, do whatever it is that you want to do in the game, and then your rewards are going to stack up, and you can play whatever character you want. So I think it's a great change because also, I mean, thinking about it from the other direction, I want to play my alt. I have now done a bunch of stuff on my main, but my main is not quite at the point where my alt will receive this minor benefit. So now I need to wait one more week or day rotation, and then I can play the way I want to play because my main will have this benefit unlocked for my alt that my alt will then take advantage of, and then I'm utilizing my time better that way. You could end up on the other side of that as well. So I think this is going to remove all those kinds of temptations or those situations where you have to do something that really makes no logical sense and maybe isn't even very fun to do in order to, just eke out some small advantage.
Yeah, hopefully that's what we see happen. We'll have to see what players decide and how players choose to take part in it. But yeah, it's an interesting changeover that we're going to have to see happen with these reputations. They did list the reputations being affected by this. We have Rathian and Sibelian, Cobalt Assembly, Artisans Consortium, Azerothian Archives, Siradormi, and then under Renown we have Dragonscale Expedition, Morok Centaur, Iskar Tuskar, Veldraken Accord, Loam Niffin, and Dream Wardens. So those are all the ones being affected by this merger as far as what we're going to see. There are few reputations they've opted not to convert, including Winterpelt Froborg and the Glimmerog Racer, were due to not fitting within the fantasy for those reputations. The Winterpelt Furbolg has a language learning component that doesn't make much sense to be shared across characters, and the Glimmerog Racer reputation feels more like a personal standing with the snail races than an actual reputation that should be shared. These are minor reputations that wouldn't be impactful on the Warband-wide account system. So when it comes to future conversion reputations, the current plan is to work backwards into older expansions, converting many old reputations over time. As it's a time-consuming effort, it will take a while to implement. Similar to reputations within Dragonflight, there will be a limited number that won't be converted. Usually, this is because it doesn't make sense for the fantasy perspective, or because it involves a character-specific choice. For example, Aldor Scryer in Burning Crusade and the Covenants and Shadowlands won't be converted because they represent per character choices. The other one that I would use, and this is separate from what they posted, is Brawlers Guild. I probably wouldn't put the Brawlers Guild rep as something that's account-wide. I'd probably keep that to character-specific because, again, you're a champion who's fighting inside a space. That character has its own path as far as that goes. So that's another thing I'd highlight as someone who wants Brawlers Guild back. Please open Brawlers Guild again. All right. Part of the Warband reputation, this is the first time quest rewards reputation implementation, is in satisfying the goal that players with many alts don't have an intrinsic advantage over those who play their time on single player. To accomplish this, they're introducing a new concept for quest rewards. Players can earn a bonus quest reward for any quest completed the first time on their Warband. An additional different bonus can be granted for completing the quest additional times. So in this case, they are showing a clip of getting Council of Dornogal grants reputation with the Council of Dornogal token for 2,500 rep, and this would be something that is considered the bonus for doing it the first time. After that, you would still receive the 23 gold and green gloves that are a reward on your alt character. You just wouldn't get that reputation as part of that, and there's a little icon that shows that it's, this one-time Warband bonus. There's the flavor text that it shows on that. So you'll be able to see the first time you've completed this quest, which also explains why when I was doing some alpha stuff on 2 different characters, I was seeing your Warband has already completed this quest as an actual pop-up inside of the quest text when I was accepting quests. So I knew whether or not there was a reward I essentially wasn't getting anymore because someone else had already completed that particular content. Well, a different character had already completed that different content, is what I should say. All right. The most common way we anticipate granting this bonus in War Within quests is when rewarding Warband reputation. Specifically, we plan for quests to only give reputation as the first time completion bonus. On additional completions of the quest on alts, players will earn a bonus reward currency similar to Dragon Isle supplies instead of reputation. This currency will be freely transferable across the Warband and can be used to purchase various Warband level rewards such as cosmetics, mounts, and pets. With this setup, you can complete quests for any character you want without impacting your reputation or progress. Whichever character completes them first will earn the reputation for your Warband. This also avoids the situation in which players who play many characters can rapidly advance in reputation over someone who only plays one character, which makes perfect sense. But you might ask, what about diplomacy? Human racial diplomacy is currently designed to grant a 10% bonus to reputation for players who choose that race. Well, guess what? Unfortunately, with Warband reputations, this racial causes problems due to its character-specific nature. So, we don't want players to feel compelled to play specifically a character, like a particular race, to earn Warband rewards more efficiently, so they will convert this race-specific bonus into something new, and we'll share more information on that at a later date. In other words, diplomacy is going away. You are losing one of the oldest running bonuses for a racial passive for a race that they have in the game. We're going to see that go away, and it'll be replaced with something else for humans. So humans, get ready for a new racial.
Yeah, I mean, they just had to, right?
Yeah.
Because if they didn't, then everybody would just have to play human all the time. Like your first time through every content you'd have to do as human, because otherwise you're just leaving 10% renown rep on the table. So it is a little sad in a way, because it is, it's a hallmark of this game for 20 years. But with this new system, in my opinion, it has to go. I think, one of my big concerns about this coming in was that, okay, I am a player who really has a dedicated main. My primary interest is only in playing my main character. Am I going to have to play more than one character in order to really take advantage of the system, or to play quote unquote, optimally or semi-optimally? And the answer is really no. It doesn't sound like, they make many references to it throughout this blog post, and including in the part about the first time quest rewards, that they don't want having a main character to be a penalty, and I think that's perfect. So you get all kinds of benefits from whatever you as a player do, but there's no strict advantage to having a giant alt stable that you're playing through a bunch of different content with either, right? There are benefits, but there's no real advantage if that's the playstyle you enjoy. So I think that's good. And it is weird. It's really weird that human diplomacy is going away, but really, if they didn't, then they would just be literally correct to do all first-time questing and all rep granting activities as a human toon, and that is not a good way to design the game. There are all these different races you could play for a reason, and there shouldn't just be a correct answer to something like, how should I level up and do story questing? Yeah,
exactly. Okay, let's talk a little bit about achievements. In the past, we've played with your account-wide achievement point totals in some places. They've had some account-wide component to them. They've had some character-specific components to them, but only your character total number in total in others, like in guilds. With the introduction of Warbands, they want all achievements to be considered Warband achievements. You, the player, accomplish them, so you should not feel like you need to complete them on more than one character, or feel like you do not want to play another character because they are missing achievements. Given this, we are eliminating the concept of character-based achievement score. From now on, a total Warband score will be tracked and displayed instead. The score will be the sum of all account-wide achievement points plus the points for any character-specific achievements completed on any character. They're also converting many achievements to account-wide. In fact, I see they haven't kept the same lingo. They're converting to Warband-wide. I want to clarify. In fact, they will be converting approximately 2,000 achievements from across all expansions. The philosophy we are following for this conversion is that if an achievement has the possibility of sharing progress across characters, e.g. do X things, we want to convert it so all characters can share progress on it. It shouldn't matter whether you return 50 flags the defender in Warsong Gulch on a single character, or whether you like PvPing on 10 characters and did 5 on each. There are a few exceptions to this, however, specifically the achievements where doing activity on one character is part of what makes it hard or interesting. One such example is Insane in the Membrane. The hard part of this achievement is maxing out diametrically opposed reputations. We don't want to undermine the accomplishments of players who completed these particular difficult achievements in the past, so we won't be converting achievements like this. That makes perfect sense. For those who are curious about this achievement, it was raised the reputation to Honored with Blood-Sealed Buccaneers and Exalted with Booty Bay, Everlook, Gadget's Hand, Ratchet, Darkwing Fair, and Ravenholt. So you had to find a way to balance these reputations out and accomplish this task, which was challenging to do on one character. If they had multiple characters, you just get honored with, Blood-Sealed Buccaneers on one character and then do all the other stuff on the other character and not have to suffer any of the opposition that would take place by working for one is hindering the other. So that makes perfect sense to me that they would.
Yeah, that short circuits the whole spirit of that achievement, you know. And also, these are not achievements that have real impacts on your character progression or whatever in terms of power. These are purely optional, So I think that's smart. It's I like the idea of, okay, if this thing you have to do 50 times, you can do it,
5 times on each character,
multiple times on different characters. Like that kind of stuff makes perfect sense because it's your time and it's your time logged into the game and you're the one playing it. But yeah, I do think that people might look at it and go, well, I just want the achievements and I want the rewards from it, and what's the difference how I do it? But the whole point of something like Insane in the Membrane is, navigating those competing achievements and putting all that time into the grind, going from one side back to the other, or, whatever the case is for some of those reps. So I feel like if they change that would indeed really undermine it for people that already earned it, because it's not the same achievement anymore, in my opinion. So I think, I'm glad that some of that stuff is on their radar and they're trying to be smart about some of it. But for many years now, the way rep is functioned in the game is sort of this barrier to certain content or rewards that you're sort of just expected to have from investing time in the game. And so, those are the types of reps that really need this system to apply to them, and just have players have the flexibility to switch around however they want.
Yeah, exactly. They're also keeping some not necessarily character specific achievements, but they're letting certain achievements be more visible as to which characters you completed them on. Things like Memories of Teldrassil. They go in here and say any achievements that would not benefit from shared progress across characters, such as Memories of Teldrassil, will be left character specific, so you can see cool things you've done on specific characters for posterity. But again, they have no impact on your achievement score, rewards, or ability to complete achievements. So just keep that in mind. They've also taken a look at rewards granted by achievements. For these, they mostly want them to be Warband wide. Therefore, in many cases, they're looking at making the rewards go to the entire Warband, such as most titles. In other cases, they're simply converting the entire achievement and its reward to account wide. For example, dungeon teleports earned by Keystone hero achievements will become account wide, both in achievement and reward. So hey, if you've been keeping up on your teleports, guess what? All of your characters will have access to the teleports. That's pretty phenomenal as a reward, I would say, for folks who've been actually putting in the effort to doing that every season.
Yeah, I think that's a really good addition. I mean, again, for somebody like me, it doesn't impact me a lot because I don't really do Keystones on more than one tune. But I don't feel like, especially with sort of the way we've seen this reward structure evolve for Mythic Plus with the dungeon teleports, I just don't feel like it's prestigious enough that like, oh, you have to prove that you did it on this character. We're not talking like a PvP title or something. You know what I mean? I feel like that's where the particular character really comes into play, and like skill expression on that character comes into play a lot more than timing a +20 dungeon, which is a cooperative, exercise. I mean, hell, you can buy it. You know what I mean? So I think having it go account wide to me is fine. I don't feel like this undermines my character's accomplishments or something, or gives a player who plays more alts and keystones than I do some kind of an advantage. I tend to do keystones with people from my team that play more than one character, and it's like, oh, this particular tune doesn't actually have a +20 in time. Can somebody summon me? You know what I mean? Like, that just gets kind of stupid when people can't remember, like, which teleports do I have on which character or whatever, because keystone dungeons are just not like... I understand that not everybody alive is like timing +20s as a matter of course every season and getting their teleports, but if your group is like playing at that level, it's something you kind of stop thinking about after a while. And so it's not some giant hurdle to get over per character because you're so good at this character. It's much more just an expression of you as a player, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I certainly do. I think it makes perfect sense to be doing the restrictions they're putting in place so far, and there's also other ones coming in. Like, the primary exemption for being Warband wide is those that are intrinsically per character, such as Dreaming of Worms. Another exception is achievements that highly celebrate prestigious accomplishments on a specific character, like the Gladiator Dragonflight Season 3 achievement, whose title and progress will remain character specific. To address how we progress for achievements across characters, for most achievements, they're adding your progress across all your characters. For example, if you have done 200 personal crafting orders on 3 different characters, the personal crafting achievement will immediately be completed upon login. There are a few achievements where it only makes sense to take the highest value across your character, such as the ability to reach level 70. In most cases, these are not being converted, as there is no benefit. For the exceptions where they are, we will use the highest value reached on your character. It would be weird to have 5 level 20s and get the achievement for hitting level 70. It just would be weird. So they're not doing that. So it's not a thing. Keep that in mind as well. They are going to have shared flight points across your warband. So that's going to be a thing, but they're keeping map exploration as an individual character thing. They do think there's something rewarding about running around and exploring stuff. However, there is going to be a toy that you can get called the Warband Map to Everywhere All at Once, which will let you reveal all maps in all regions for a member of your warband. So you sort of have an out of like, hey, if you still want the joy and exploration of running around exploring the map, and you don't want your map fully revealed because one of your characters has the map fully revealed in an area, or just cumulatively happening across your entire account, doesn't make as much sense. So they're just going to put a toy in that essentially does that for you, and you can choose to use it if you want to, which I think is a great change as far as that goes.
I actually really like having the map unexplored for tunes that haven't been there, because that could maybe help you figure out like what content you want to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, and I don't know, it's such like an intrinsic part of WoW gameplay from day one. I mean, back in 04 when vanilla servers opened up, exploring new areas on the map was so cool and rewarding, right? When it would fill in with the overworld map. So
dude, the experience from it alone was like, ooh, this is actually pretty valuable to run around and explore the map. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a whole part of the loop. But I mean, it still really is. But so I like the fact that by default it's off, but you can turn the map on if you want to. Like, that's actually a pretty nice solution, because it would be a bummer, I think, if warbands and account wide everything just meant that piece goes away. There's something just cool about it, every time you take a new character through an area. But the flight paths being shared, that's very good.
Yes.
those what were they called? The map toys, right? They gave you all the flight points. They're getting pretty expensive. So that's a really good change.
Well, and there's a lot of them, and you don't inevitably forget to learn one of them, and then you have to find out which one it was and figure out which one it was. Yeah. So I'm glad that came in. I also I just want to speak to this. To me, shows how much thought has gone into warbands in general. To think about, do we want map exploration to be something that becomes warband wide, and how do we want to solve this, sort of problem that we came up with as far as this goes? Like, that's a detail that could be very easily overlooked, and just suddenly what goes over warband wide, and people are like, oh, I wish this wasn't, right? But it's too late now. Like, because once you merge all that data, you've merged all that data. Like, that's a thing, right?
Yeah,
So,
I don't think you're going back on that for something like the map exploration. Yeah,
exactly. So I think it's great to see them thinking about it this closely. All right, currencies. Like map exploration, it's been decided to be handled a little bit differently. Rather than having you basically purchase an item to move currency around within your warbands, they've created a new user interface for it that will allow you to actually select a currency and choose to transfer a certain amount of it from one character to another within your warband. Currencies intended for purchasing warband-wide items such as cosmetics, pets, and mounts will usually be completely free to transfer between members of your warband, but otherwise there might be some sort of resources, like standard expansion-based resources or dragon supplies, right, that you're spending to move currency from one to the other. That way you're not necessarily creating a situation where you have to keep buying items and moving them around a bunch, which I appreciate as well. All right, items and gear within your warband. While gear is one of the primary forms of character-specific progression in World of Warcraft, we're adding a variety of improvements to items and gear and managing and collecting them more conveniently and alternate character friendly. So the Warband Bank can be accessed at bankers throughout the game. It will provide 5 tabs with 98 available inventory slots. Each tab can be purchased and increased for an increasing amount of gold. These tabs will be customized with an icon and organized like a guild vault. This bank is an addition to your individual character bank vault. Any non-soulbound items can go into the Warband Bank. All characters in your warband can access the bank to freely deposit and withdraw items. The bank will also behave like the reagent bank, allowing you to craft items using reagents from it without having to withdraw them. In addition, the bank allows you to deposit and manually withdraw gold across your characters in your warband. In other words, all the gold that you have across all of your characters in your warband everywhere is going to be piled into one big pile, which means no longer do you have to worry about how much gold you can transfer from one server to another and how you're going to do that. And do you have to buy up a bunch of mounts and pets that you're going to sell on the other server because you can only bring across so much gold, or do you have to leave a whole bunch of gold behind on one server because you can only move so much at a time, which I actually dealt with when I moved over to the server I'm currently on and left a whole bunch behind on Stormrage. So it'll be nice to have all of that gold back into one big pile. And it'd be kind of hilarious to see just how much that adds up to across all of my characters that I have everywhere, because I definitely spaced some gold out across a lot of servers. So seeing what that adds up to will be kind of a fun thing to see that total.
Yeah, one weird thing is we haven't really had much clarification, not that I've seen anyway, about gold cap and whatever.
Yep.
It sounds like, I don't know, the way they describe kind of depositing gold and stuff, like, is that maybe that it's your warband is not just like a shared pile of gold. You can put it in the bank, but your characters just have it. Like, why would you deposit it in the bank? I guess is my question, unless that was the case. So, yeah. I just need to be able to see this, and I really wanted to ask at BlizzCon about the gold cap situation, and I didn't get a chance, and I haven't seen it come up anywhere else. And I mean, it doesn't really affect me. I'm nowhere near a gold cap, if you can believe that. But I do know a couple people who like have multiple gold cap tunes, and like, well, what does that mean? So we don't entirely know yet, and it doesn't really answer my question about it, but I love the fact that this is like an account-wide reagent bank, man. Wow. That's just super nice. Like I was saying earlier about mailing stuff back and forth to characters, like that is kind of an obnoxious process and has been for a long time. If you maintain like multiple different professions, this would be so streamlined. Like, just dump all of your mats into your warband bank, and then whatever tunes you need to make whatever thing, log over, make it like really, really nice. And also just like a ton of extra storage, right? Because this doesn't replace your bank or your other storage tabs. It's just it's an addition on top of that for your shared stuff. So I think this is a huge upgrade. I mean, it is going to be pretty expensive to get all the tabs, and we've seen like a graphic from Wowhead where currently, I guess, like the example that somebody had out there was like the final tab is 2.5 mil, but I mean, that's a ton of additional storage. It is extremely optimal storage.
96 spaces.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not going to be. I don't think I'll be. Trying to get that last Warband bank tab for quite a while. So it's going to ramp up to that. But if you have, you'll be able to get a couple tabs probably and do what you need to do. So I think it's great. It's such a cool feature. I mean, that is one thing that I have used my alts for a lot over the years is for professions. And just removing those barriers to moving stuff I've collected around between my characters would be really nice.
Yeah, it's 96 spaces per tab. That is a huge amount of storage space. So keep that in mind. Another thing that we're going to be seeing, which Jason already mentioned on the show when we were talking about alpha stuff, is Warbound until equipped gear. Basically gear that you're going to find through outdoor activities and sometimes some other spaces while playing the game that ends up being a item that you can trade off to put inside your Warband bank, and another character can take it and equip it. And once they equip it, it's now soulbound to them. So we're going to see Warbound until equipped gear come in, which is great to see. The enhancing your transmog collection. Collecting transmog appearances has long been something that has required players to plan gear runs on a per armor type basis, even though item appearances are shared across account. So yes, with Warbands, they're just going to make it so that if you loot a piece of gear that is a piece of plate and you are a mage, guess what? You've just earned the transmog appearance for that piece of gear. You can then collect all of these appearances. It's important to note that these changes only affect your ability to collect appearances. Existing rules on whether characters can use any of these appearances are not changing, so keep that in mind as well. You won't then be able to put a plate helm on your mage. That's not a thing. It's just changing those initial affected things.
It makes it way better to collect stuff, but it doesn't, this is not an update to transmog rules, which I think can be maybe a little confusing to some people at first, but it way streamlines collecting stuff and it opens up your options for collecting stuff a ton.
Yeah.
So, which is really awesome. I feel like this was kind of maybe long overdue, even without account-wide everything. Yeah. Right? Because, I mean, man, how many times have you
mailed a piece of plate to one of my other characters because I can't equip it on my main? A lot.
Yeah, or like just done a mod run and be like, oh, that's such a cool piece. Oh, but I can't learn it because it doesn't fall under my character's proficiency. You know, now you don't have that sort of obstacle. It's like you put the time into doing the mod run. You now know all the mod that you collected from that run. That's really cool.
You go back and try and restore those Garrosh Hellscream shoulders because you got them on your mage and you couldn't equip them, and you just want to leave them sitting in your bank now so that, you know, when this goes live, your warrior can equip those things. Like, that's the type of thing we're talking about.
Burn your item restore on that now, because it's apparently going to be everything in your bag when it goes. So if you can hang on to something until then, you can benefit from it. Really, you could start like piling stuff up now.
Yeah, farming stuff now. Yeah, exactly. All right. They're also making it easier to collect appearances for unbound items. You will no longer need to equip a piece to add it to your collection. Anytime you destroy an item via disenchanting, deleting, selling, etc., you will automatically collect the appearance. There is also new flow to directly collect appearances from bind on equip, BOE gear that you cannot equip by converting it to Warbound until equipped instead. Existing gear in your character level bank or bag will automatically be added to your transmog inventory when you first log into that character, which means, yes, you will need to log into all of your characters once this goes live to collect all the transmogs that are in their banks and bags and everywhere else. So keep that in mind too. To account for these changes, we're making a slight adjustment to how rolling for gear in raids and group loot works. Any gear that drops with transmog appearance you haven't collected yet will have the transmog option to roll for it. Rather than the greed option, transmog has priority over greed. Keep that in mind. When rolling transmog, any gear that drops that can be equipped to your current character will get a higher rolling priority than those rolling with characters who cannot equip the item, e.g. a priest will beat a warrior when both roll transmog on a piece of cloth gear, sorry, not just in general, because that would just be mean. So just keep that in mind. I think I'd love to see what they mean, how in execution a lot of this works, because they talk about like adding a system for BOEs to be something that you can essentially get the transmog on while still getting this converted to a Warbound until equipped item, or essentially getting a piece of gear and choosing to disenchant it, and you still get the transmog for that item even if you haven't equipped it, or they said selling it is another way. I'm curious if it's selling counts as auction house selling. And I will say in general, I think it would be great if I got a transmog look when I looted a piece of item and then traded it to a guildie. Would be a nice thing to sort of do. You could share pieces around inside raid if that was something that was working that way. Yes, it sort of, I guess, lowers the prestige to a certain degree on pieces of gear like that, but that would be an interesting thing to discuss and hear what the devs sort of have an opinion on, as far as like, hey, I got this really wicked staff. but it's not really an upgrade for me, but I love the look of it and I want it inside this thing, but it's a huge upgrade for this other person. Could I save the look of it on my character while giving it to this other person so they get an upgrade on it? Yes, no, question, no.
That's I gotta think that's a no, because now you're going across players and across accounts. They want both of you to pay for your sub next month. So, I mean, like, not to be super cynical about it, but I think that's the kind of where it goes into, you know, like with Diablo 3 or something, right? Like, you'd have stuff like that where, oh, me and my buddy are going to do rifts. Oh, hey, do you have this appearance? Hey, whatever. You just, like, move stuff around, or, you know, I don't know. Like, then obviously you have, like, the whole shared stash and all that, which is this is sort of like a shared stash in a Diablo game. But, you know, there's certain barriers that they always put in, because it's like, okay, this is for you as a player, and you can express it in the game in all these different ways, and this is for another player. So I feel like that would probably fit into that category. Yeah, it is. The thing, I would like some more details on the BOE gear appearances, because they make it's just sort of so matter of fact, you know, to convert it to Warbound until equipped, but they don't really say what that is. But I think
like what that system is,
Yeah, I think when they say selling, you know, they probably mean to a vendor. Like when you have those, like right now, if you have grays or whites or greens, you know, if you don't have the appearance, then you got to equip it or something, and then you sell it, and then it unlocks the appearance usually. There's weird rules around that don't seem super consistent. What it sounds like to me is maybe there'll be a vendor or some NPC you talk to that, like, hey, I want this soulbound or this BOE item to be warbound until equipped. And then that would probably unlock the appearance at that point, because now it's warbound, and then another character can equip it. But I don't really understand what the benefit of that is versus putting it in your Warband bank and having the character that you want to equip it, and then you just get it, right? Like, there's some other case I'm not thinking of when I read this, but Warbound until equipped is a weird. I think that is going to be an adjustment for some people to just kind of mentally shift into, because the item is like account bound. But once it's equipped, now it's soulbound, and it's not like you could take it off and give it to another character in your warband. It's still a soulbound item at that point, right? So that's, but I think it sounds like the idea with warbound until equipped is going to be, it's going to be higher item level than you'd get from like a typical maybe piece you could move around. It's going to be personal loot, so it'll be a cool bonus when you get it, and it'll really help you fast track gearing on another character, which all sounds really nice. But I think we are going to have some confusion among a lot of us early on about soulbound versus warbound until equipped versus bind on equip, etc. You know, they're all sort of slightly different categories, I think.
Right. Yeah, and so finally we see the updated character select screen, where there's a favorites list. You can favorite particular characters so that you have those particular characters you play most often at the top of the list. But all of your characters from all of your realms will be available inside of that list. You'll be able to scroll through every single one of your characters, as opposed to having to go to the actual realm screen and pick a realm and pick the characters you have on that realm. You'll be able to access them through this actual main Warband character select screen. They're also adding additional information to your characters. You'll be able to see things like your item level, your professions on that character, your Mythic Plus rating on your character, your PvP rating on that character, and they do show gold on that character, which Jason speaks a little bit more information to us about this. It's probably that when this goes live, this is my guess, okay, but how the gold system is going to work. When this goes live, your Warband vault will have no gold in it at all. You will choose to deposit gold from your characters into that vault, and that vault will have some sort of cap attached to it, which means you are not worrying about all of your gold getting merged across all of your characters and somehow going above the cap and losing gold in some way. I imagine it just, all your characters' gold stays static. You have to log into those characters and choose to deposit gold into their banks. And so this way you can actually click through your characters on the character list screen and see how much gold is on each character, choose which characters you're logging into, and deposit that gold into your vault, which you can then withdraw from your vault to be able to have gold on a different character. So I don't know what the cap is going to be on the vault, but I imagine that this is a safe way of doing it so no one loses gold in this process, which would be the thing you want to avoid most as Blizzard in this. But overall, the actual screen that you get here is very cool. You have your shop and your menu and your character creation, and obviously there's still a realms list. I imagine the realms list is probably for switching regions, is what that most likely is for when I'm going to like South America servers versus the North America servers kind of thing, but we'll see what that actually looks like as far as realms go. Outside of that, it's a great screen. I'm looking forward to getting the customization for it, because they've talked about adding things like different backgrounds or different landscapes. Eventually down the line, having trophies or different things you can display inside of your Warband camp on this screen. Yeah, I'm excited to get in there and check out a lot of this stuff with War Within.
Yeah, it's a cool upgrade to the login experience, and it's also very Diablo-esque, right? The campfire motif. I mean, that's like core Diablo right there. Yeah, and they do say even this post, that they're for launch you only be able to assign 4 characters, but it sounds like they are going to be expanding that in the future. That's the plan anyway. They say they're working on building more scenes to collect in the future.
I want other characters to be able to just wander through the background having a conversation with each other. That's
that'd
what
be really
want.
Cool.
Just like you got your prime people who are chilling at the campfire, but like every now and then you just got this like 3 or 4 of your other characters just sort of stroll through in the background chatting about something and walk off screen. Like that'd be cool.
That'd be really cool. I mean, I sort of feel like this could be the vector that you essentially solve the player housing ask with. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like it's not a location in the game really, or at least it's not like attached to like a space that you're participating in gameplay in, but you could tie it to like obviously locations in the game or whatever, but as you do like more customizable stuff. And players can hang out there. They could put their, collect stuff and put it in the screen and then, move elements around or something. Maybe like if they could, if they could come up with the tech for that, it'd be awesome. Yeah. I think it would serve that particular type of collector, customizer, gamer that wants the housing for so long now without having this sort of problem that you can't solve down the road when there's nowhere else to put player houses, or when the player houses are in a place that we never go to, or stuff like that. So I think it's really cool. I think this is going to be a huge upgrade. The Warband concept overall is going to be a huge upgrade to this game for players for years to come. I mean, in a way it's a bit overdue, but also I feel like it's evident that there's so much work involved in standing this up in a way that feels good to players that it makes sense that it's taking as long as it has. But, I think this sets up the new era of the game like completely differently and in a much more modern way for WoW players. So it's really cool. I'm looking forward to it, of course. But, again, my personal benefits are probably a bit more minor, but I'm really happy that they're doing this. I think it's a great way to just, respect the time that people put into the game and how much people care about their accounts overall, right? Maybe not one particular character, but just how much time they spend with the game. Yeah,
that's it's going to be so cool. I'm really hoping, as you said, for different scenes and essentially be able to set different scenes. And I'm digging it, man. I want like an Ardenweald one. I want a bunch of like a Storm Peaks one. I just want all these different zones and areas to have really cool stuff to look like. I want them. Man.
Dark Moonfair one. How about like a Dark Moonfair one you get from tickets and then get different props or whatever. Like that'd be really cool if they could incorporate that stuff. I mean, I really feel like obviously this feature is a bit underdeveloped right now, and I think they would probably tell you that. I mean, we get that impression just from reading the blog post. And if you see alpha, if you've played it or if you see anybody playing it, like the version they have now is like kind of not entirely there. Like you'll see your traditional login, like single character login screen first sometimes, and then like the Warband login comes up over top of it. And what they had at BlizzCon, they said was just a UI mock-up, like that wasn't functional. So this is something I think it's going to evolve over time for sure. But I think it just sets a whole new tone for logging into the game and checking it out. It's really a nice upgrade, and just overall, this is going to be a thing that pays dividends.
I think
until
so
the end of WoW's time. This has nothing to do with War Within. Like, yes, this is coming in War Within. This is coming in 11.0. Yeah, but this is the new, essentially like face of the game for players forever, presumably, or until we get to the point where we need to revisit this because now this is too moldy and we got to do it again. But this is a whole new generation.
Exactly. All right, folks, man, this has been a heck of a big episode. I want to take a moment to thank our patrons because they've contributed a ton to our show and help us create the content that we create and help us improve on it. And we wouldn't be doing shows like this, especially this length, without your support. So thank you. And today I'm giving a big shout out to Alianas, Arajian, James, Kapawi, Max, Pinky, Shorel, and Rager. Thank you so much for all that you do to support the show. And thank you to all of our patrons who support our show. It means a lot. Like I said, Jason and I wouldn't be putting 2.5 hours in to doing a show on every Monday consistently every week, depending on what our lives and schedules were, without the help from our patrons. And it means so much, and we appreciate it so much. So, man, thank you so much. If you want to join our Patreon, it's over at patreon.com/thestartingzone. There's no new patrons this week, but we appreciate everyone who hops in and supports the show, and thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you, patrons, past and present. Really helps the show out immensely, and helps keep the show on track, helps keep the show on schedule, and helps the archives stay online and all that stuff. So thank you all so much. It's really, we are on the precipice of a super exciting era of WoW. I feel like there's so much good stuff coming our way the whole rest of this year, really. And, this is the last kind of little hours of holding our breath for the end of Dragonflight and on into War Within. So it's going to be a fun ride, I think.
It is. And if you folks have enjoyed this episode, another great way to support us is by leaving us those 5-star reviews over on your iTunes, your Apple Podcast. They really help out our show and raise up the charts, and we haven't had one in a little bit. So if anyone wants to hop over there and leave us a 5-star, we would really appreciate it, and we'll read it here live on the show. That's going to wrap up episode 628 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out your show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. If you want to contact the show and leave us your feedback or ask a question, you can email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com or reach out to us on Twitter at thestartingzone or thestartingzone.com/discord. We'll actually take you over to a link where you can click on a big red button that takes you into our Discord server, and you can hop in there and talk with us over there as well. If you want to get your hands on some TSE gear, some shirts or mugs or stickers, that sort of thing, you can find it over at TeePublic. That's teepublic.com/stores/thestartingzone, and you can check out all those designs that are there. And Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
So the best place to find me, as always, is over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald. You can also find me over on Blue Sky, just J Lucas over there, just the letter J and Lucas. Video channels are at twitch.tv/Shieldwald and youtube.com/Shieldwald. I did stream some alpha the other night, and I will probably be streaming some more this week. That is my plan with Season 4 launch and everything, to get in there and start doing that stuff. So that'll be like Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern for Raid and Keystone streams and stuff. Hopefully, if my ISP cooperates. And just some breaking news here on our way out. We'll be talking a lot more about it next week, but as we've been on the air, it has been announced that May 7th is going to be the release date for 10.2.7, which is the Darkheart patch for Dragonflight. The final content update for Dragonflight is May 7th. And then Mists of Pandaria Remix is going to be the following week, May 16th. And it's a global simultaneous release, May 16th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time, and everywhere else around the world, whatever that conversion works out to. So that's super cool, man. We got, 2 weeks here to get acclimated to Season 4. Then we'll get the last story chunk and all that stuff. We'll get some new heritage armors and everything to guide us on our way out of Dragonflight. And then another week and a half from there, that Thursday night, MOP Remix Night is going to be really fun, man. So,
yeah.
This week is huge, and then we're just on the verge of a couple more huge weeks. So it's good times. I'm really excited to be getting back in there and having new stuff to do, new goals to chase, because it was a lean couple months, but we're ready to get into it now.
Yeah, we're definitely on the fast part of the roller coaster at the moment for everyone who's having a good time on that. If you're trying to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey, or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD, or on YouTube at youtube.com/@SpencerHD. And with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.